What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another wrestling session, I guess, here on the Lopes Goes Last podcast. I still haven't come up with a name for this whole arrangement that we have, Dan.
I think that works, though.
Wrestling Hey, why not?
Wrestling session.
We'll call it that for now. If you all have a better name, let me know. But that's what I'm going to call it for this. And this is going to be the Royal Rumble reaction episode. This is going to be different than what we've been doing. Obviously, you guys hopefully have seen all of our fantasy bookings that we've done over the last 6 to 8 weeks or so. If you haven't, go check them out. Dan and I worked very hard on these.
Even though half of them are wrong now.
That was the point, right? Is they were going to be wrong.
Thanks, Rock.
Right, yeah, exactly. But anyway, if you didn't watch those, then you may not have heard that I did go to the Royal Rumble this year in Tampa. Unfortunately, Dan was not able to join me, but that also means that Dan has no idea what my experience was like there. And so this episode, rather than me kind of facilitating, me doing the questions and all that stuff, today is Dan's day. He is going to be kind of poking the bear here, and we're going to kind of figure out what I thought about the Royal Rumble, and then obviously Dan will, I'm sure, tell all of you what he thought watching at home of the Royal Rumble. Hopefully Dan has watched it by now. Genuinely, I don't even know if that's true. It probably is.
I will say, I was there live, watching it on Peacock, the whole entire match, but for whatever reason, I fell asleep through men's Rumble entrance, 13 or 14 through 20 or 21. I woke back up right before Pat McAfee's spot. So I missed 6 or 7 entrants where I finished it out because I was like, I don't want to pause and try to catch up because I want to see the end. I want to see the end live. But so I kept up with it, but I'm just like, well, I guess we were watching the Men's Rumble actually on Sunday, so I rewatched the entire Men's Rumble on Sunday.
So at least you've watched it in totality.
My wife joined me.
There you go.
She joined me for the Women's Rumble and part of Roman's match.
Hey now.
So yeah, I think she's starting to understand it a little more. And I always, I think if anybody wants to ever get into wrestling or is what it's all about, Rumble's outside of WrestleMania, but I almost would maybe put Rumble above it. I think Rumble is a fun little entrance into wrestling.
I think so too.
Because it's you get to see a lot of players. Some players don't always have a TV time every week. Some maybe most weeks, but not every week. And I was going to say you get to see some legends, but we didn't have any legends.
No, we did not.
And that's my first question for you. It's what do you think about we didn't have, especially on the women's side. Usually that's how they fill 5 or 6 spots is bringing in whether it's Trish or Lita. Lita's been in the past couple. Trish has been on and off the last few years.
Michelle McCool.
They brought in Mickie James when she was TNA Knockouts champion.
Yeah.
But yeah, no legends at all.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, the pure objectively speaking, or subjectively speaking, I should say, a little disappointing. Obviously, when you watch the Rumble your whole life, and you just see all the fun things and all the amazing people, your heroes or some of your heroes when you're a kid come back, even if it's just for 2 minutes and they get eliminated immediately. It's cool to hear their music.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't imagine one of my favorite underrated Rumble moments in history is when in 2008. Madison Square Garden, I think that was the John Cena Rumble, right? Where he came back at 30 after a month and a half after he tore his pec or whatever it was.
Shoulder pec and
just bionic.
The recovery.
Yeah, exactly. But earlier in the night, Rowdy Roddy Piper's music hit, and he came out, and the crowd went nuts for Rowdy Roddy Piper. Rowdy Roddy Piper was at the first WrestleMania. He main evented the first WrestleMania. So, he was an old school guy. So, this is going into Mania 24, I think, or 25. So, you're talking, this guy's in his 50s, way past it. But, and it didn't matter that he was out of shape and could only really punch or kick. It was Rowdy Roddy freaking Piper.
Right.
So, like, anybody who's in that crowd that's, like, in their, you know, in their 30s or 40s or 50s or whatever, like, that's somebody you grew up watching. And so it didn't matter that he was only in there for a couple of minutes and awkwardly cursed on live television or whatever it was that he did, you know. Whatever, who cares? Like, it was Rowdy Roddy Piper, and it was really cool to see him come out, and everybody gave him some love, as they should.
Yeah.
So, like, that part of it is a little disappoting. I'm not going to lie to you. I was
Okay.
kind of hoping to see, I mean, one person, one legend
Right.
of either Rumble. I didn't care who it was going to be.
Right.
You know? Like, yeah, it would have been cool to see Trish Stratus come out in the Women's Rumble, sure, or Lita, like you mentioned, or Mickey James, or somebody like that. Or, hell, I didn't even take an Alicia Fox.
Right.
You know, right? Like that part was mildly disappointing. However, objectively speaking, I think it's great because I especially for the women, this women's Rumble has relied so heavily on legends and fillers.
Yes.
And this year, and I'm you know, maybe you disagree, but I was in the crowd. I've heard people talk about it, and I can tell you, it is, to me, the best women's Rumble that they have ever done.
Yes.
It was phenomenal. And not a single legend to speak of. And I think that really speaks to the new depth of the women's roster.
Yes.
And the fact that Triple H is willing to open the door a little bit to TNA. We can't overlook that.
Right.
You know, obviously, we did it a little bit. But I did hear a rumor with Mickey James, like you mentioned, that they didn't even know that she was in TNA or was the Knockouts champion. She just went to them.
That was like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, like
That was
she
not
just
long
went
ago.
to them and said, "Yeah, sure, I'll be in the Rumble, but can I come out to this song instead that I did?" And they'd be like, "Sure, yeah, whatever, okay." And it was Primetime Country, which is her theme song in TNA, but she kind of got the... And I don't know, I obviously have no idea if that's true or not. That it could be completely wrong.
Right.
But I did hear that rumor, and quite frankly, with Vince, it would not have shocked me.
No.
But the fact that Triple H genuinely, I mean, obviously, considering Naomi was in the Rumble and Jordan Grace came out 3 spots later and
That
they
was
hugged,
nuts.
there ain't no way he didn't know. Like, of course he
Right.
knew.
Yeah, no, I think that was definitely planned, and I think that was definitely a nice thing, you know, just to extend, you know, kind of WWE's forbidden door. I mean, that's a weird phrase to use.
No, I can't stand that phrasing at this point. Well, look, AEW has trademarked it and turned it into a pay-per-view, and that makes sense because you're bringing all these guys from New Japan and TNA.
It makes
and all
sense
that.
for them.
That's great, but for us, it's not a forbidden door if WWE guys aren't allowed to go anywhere. It's not a door. It's it's a window that people jump through, but it's locked from the inside, and so the inside people have to open it and go, "Come on, all right, I'll open it for 5 minutes and cool off the room," and then they
like a
jump
screen
inside
door.
and then they close it back and lock it up. That's what they do.
Porch screen door.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. It's a lanai. It's a screen door. Yep.
Or one of those sliding doors.
Exactly.
Off rabbit
One of
trail.
those ones that the dogs can't see when it's too clear. They just run right into it. It's one of those.
Yeah, no, I just enjoyed that Naomi was back.
Oh my goodness.
Like, wow.
Yeah, and what a
Rumored, and we talked about that, and we were pretty sure it's probably gonna happen, but you know, it's definitely one of those things to where in WWE now I feel like there's rumors, and then but this like, you know, in the past it was like if something was rumored once, it was gonna happen because it had leaked. But now I feel like there's rumors, but it's like we still need to wait and see. Mm-hmm. So I think Naomi was one more of the sure things, but it was still like, wow. And at number 2, it's like, we're going to give you a spot where you can stay in this Rumble for a little
over
while.
an
They
hour.
could have thrown her out within like five people. They could have had Jaden Grace, right?
Jordan Grace.
Jordan Grace. Sorry. They could have Jordan Grace throw out right away when she came in, because that would have just been like a nice little icing on top of the cake for their rivalry, since she took the title from Naomi. But it was cool. It seemed like they kind of embraced, and they're, it was cool actually how like they're like embraced
and then immediately started
But
putting.
it's like nope, okay, let's go at it.
It wasn't even like
We have a nice
it wasn't
thing
even
about
like a
it.
separation and like a nodding, and it's like, all right, let's do it, and then they spin
Yep.
around, and then they grab. No, it was literally like, I love you, bang, 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 like just like instant, like not even separated, like not even arm's length away from each other. It's like, I'm gonna murder you now, like just, and that was definitely different, and it makes sense for the two of them if you've watched
Yes.
their matches. But yeah, so again, objectively speaking, it's great for the women because they did not have to rely on legends. They relied, yes, obviously, 2 huge returns / debuts and then a TNA spot. That's excitement, obviously, that your roster wasn't going to give currently.
Right. But still, that's still, so if you take out, Liv's return, Naomi's to return, and Jade's debut, and Jordan, that's still 26 spots.
Yep.
That's like they filled.
And they only had
Raw,
two NXT girls in there too.
Yeah, I mean
Roxanne Perez and Tiffany Stratton. That's it that I can remember.
I think you're right there. I think, and I mean that's Premier Carpet in NXT right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean they're fighting for the title soon.
Yep. Tiffany looked fantastic, by the way. I don't know if it conveyed at home, but I mean she looked fantastic.
They seemed to give her good spots where they didn't throw her out right away. It looked like she was kind of able to hold her own against some good people in there.
Yep.
What you've obviously seen plenty of Rumbles at home from viewing and streaming. How different was it seeing it live?
Very. And
in a good way.
Both good and bad.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest with all of you at home, and I'll be honest with you. The crowd wasn't very good. Okay. I'm going to be honest.
I've heard rumors back and forth on both sides.
Yeah, so there were points of real, true, unique, when Jay came out, the whole, I don't know if you could see it on TV. That whole stadium was rocking from the second his music hit until the second Jimmy Uso's music hit.
No,
every human in that building was rocking, and that was so much fun.
They did a wide shot. The whole stadium was blue. No, that was probably to me.
Oh, we were all doing it while he was walking down the ramp. Yeah. We didn't wait for him to start. We were all doing it. We were all having a great time. I don't know what it was about that moment, but it was almost like in unison. Everybody thought, oh, Jay's here. It's time to show him the love and respect that he deserves. What? Very interesting feeling in the arena for that. But that was fun. But what was your next question?
Well, I think kind of going into that with Jay, it's I think it's nice because we're finally seeing Jay minus the bloodline. And I think that's why he's been so easy to rally around. We all felt it as we wanted to be that, we've always been wanting to do what Jay's been wanting to do of Roman, I'm done with you, bye. Thank you, Cody, for getting him on the Raw so we could actually get him back in, after a little brief break, we can actually get him back and he can resurface his character. And the interaction between those two was just awesome. But his entrance was just off the charts. I was like, wow, this crowd impressed my wife when she was watching it. But I'm they went out to a wide shot of the whole entire stadium. And to me, that stadium was different too because obviously a baseball stadium, so it's not as you can't be. I'm sure they had seats, close to the ring and stuff, but again, it's a baseball field, diamond. It's a weird configuration. It's not, you're not in a, you can't section off an area to where people can't sit, or unless it was in one spot. But because football stadiums, for concerts at least, they kind of section off behind wherever the stage is because it's you can't see anything, But it's just I was kind of wondering that layout, but I had heard too that the crowd just wasn't as good as it could have been. It kind of came across in the broadcast that I'm why isn't there as many pops? Even Sammy, I felt got a pop, but not even that big of a pop like you usually get.
Well, we can definitely talk about that too, the specific Sammy and Liv stuff. But to go back to your original kind of point there, your question. So the bad was that it's kind of hard to see, depending on where you sit, everything that goes on. So you sometimes miss little things. For instance, I didn't see who eliminated Braun Breaker. I didn't see who eliminated Omos. Just because of the way kind of everything was.
Right now?
No, I know who did. I just didn't see it when it happened.
Okay,
I had to. There was luckily a very kind.
We'll talk about that.
There was luckily a very kind gentleman in front of me that knew that literally my seat was apparently where every human being decided to stop and stare at things. It was their favorite.
Where
activity.
were you?
So the dugout where everybody came out of. So basically, if I'm where the dugout was, I was all the way out towards right field. Not quite on the fair side of the foul pole, but way on the foul side of the foul pole. To where if I'm gonna back up here. So like if my seat's facing this way, the ring was over here.
Gotcha.
So like the entranceway was right here.
Right. So you had to sit awkwardly even just.
And so but I had an aisle seat.
Okay.
And so this is where the stairs were, right where you are. And so
So
yes,
like-
I had people walking up and down, but that's to be expected. But for some reason, out of 9,000 rows, everyone stopped right here. Like
man,
right
I'm so
there.
sorry.
Literally, there was a man during Roman Reigns' match that worked for the stadium that was doing like popcorn and beer. He stopped directly in front of my line of sight to take a bunch of pictures of the match. He could have taken it any other row, any of the other ones. And he just went right there. And I'm just like,
Oh man.
so like that was a little frustrating. But the guy in front of me, he's just as big of a fan as I was, and he could kind of see and hear my resentment of like this kid. Because it happened like 100 like
Yeah, no
it
kidding.
didn't happen one time, folks. Like I'm not just some horrible human that's like, oh, people stopped once, I hate them. No, literally every 2 seconds it was people stopping, and it drove me nuts for a time. So like that was frustrating, but that's not necessarily the venue's fault. That's more of the people's fault. So I don't hold it against the venue. The other part is at home they put the graphics up as to where, like, who is coming out and what number they are.
Right.
In the stadium, they did not.
Really?
So our entire section for most of the women's match and most of the men's match had no earthly idea what number we were on, unless on one of the Titantrons, they happened to cut to the TV broadcast just early enough to see them coming down the ramp where their number was next to their name.
Yikes.
So like we'd get all the way to like I'd be like my wife would be like, how many people are we in? And I'd be like 15 or so. And then the next person would come out and it'd be like 18, and I'd be like, okay, I guess 18.
Yikes.
Or I guess 22.
That's
like
tough.
it just so like that part was a little
That
bit.
has to take the whole crowd out of it a little bit.
I mean, it did at some point, yeah. But they did show like when R-Truth came out in the Women's Rumble, and he was number 20. He was number 24. So you could see, okay, well, I can count backwards from 20, or I can count forwards from 24. Like that's easy.
Right.
So like you can keep up from there once you had a solid point. But for a lot of the match, like you'd be like, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, that person came out. Ooh, that person came out. Oh crap! I just lost. I haven't been counting. I don't remember
Right.
where we're
'Cause
at.
you wanted to
like,
see the match,
yeah,
like,
you're
for
wanting
the
to watch
company that-
you wanting to enjoy the stories. So
Man.
but yeah, but like I missed a couple of little things, lost count of stuff. And the guy in front of me, I at the very least got to tell him one thing that I did see that he didn't, which was when Braun Breaker absolutely cut JD McDonough in half with a spear, like just
Poor JD
destroyed him. And I just like tapped the guy and I was like, dude, you just missed JD McDonough literally die. Like you just saw him get absolutely cut in half. He was like, what happened? I missed it. And I was like, Braun Breaker just speared him out of his boots. Like just... but anyway...
No, he speared him to the moon, man.
Oh yeah, he speared him to the moon.
Oh,
But yeah, so there were some bad things, obviously. Now, obviously, the good, right?
yeah.
Goodness, the buzz in that arena when Jade came out
Yeah.
and eliminated Nia Jax, you could hear collectively at the same time people who knew her from AEW celebrating, and people that had no idea who she was go, what the hell is that? Like, at the same time. Like, just see her, which, by the way, I don't know if it came across on the TV broadcast, but Nia basically did everything in her power to make sure Jade did not pick her up. Which, in wrestling, is not cool.
Yep.
You're not
Nope,
supposed to
she
do
did.
that.
She did. Yep.
She literally was like, nope, no, get off me.
Yep.
And like when you're that...
She picked her up twice.
Yeah, when you're that... No offense to Nia. When you're that heavy and you're in the women's division and nobody's picking you up like that, basically ever, like when you know before the match starts, hey, this person's going to come in and they're going to pick you up. You got to understand that that's a huge moment for this person and they're trying to convey a message. I don't know if Jade just didn't have a good enough hold of her that she thought of and she thought she was going to fall or whatever the case. But she fought her every step of the way. Or if she was just trying to fight getting picked up like storyline. But you don't fight getting picked up. You get picked up and then you go, oh my God, I'm getting picked up. Like, you don't sit there and go, no,
But that's...
no. Like, stop it.
That fits your character, though, in a sense.
I understand that, but you're gonna hurt somebody if you do that. So it's.
I mean, there's.
But Jay didn't care. She just went. Are you done? Okay, perfect. Like, and it just and literally and I sat there and I thought like this, and then she literally backed up and did this, and I'm like, oh, this is like the buzz in that place was so good. So you get those like those big moments, or when Jay came out, like I mentioned earlier, like that stuff is irreplaceable. The adrenaline rush that you get when you get that crowd, or when Cody won, which by the way.
You're right.
In your face. Just so you know.
No problem.
I never, ever wavered except for a lot. I did waver a lot. I'm not going to lie to you. I did. So a guy asked me at work, he said, all right, 2 questions. Because I was leaving. Like, literally, after I talked to him, I was walking out the door to go drive to Tampa. And he said, I have 2 questions before you leave. 1, who do you want to win? 2, who do you think's going to win? And I said, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk in that order. And he went, really? You think CM Punk's going to win? And I said, unfortunately, yes. He goes, but you want Cody to win? I said, oh boy, do I. Like, yes, I do. And then
nobody's watched any of the other records that we've had in the last couple months. Yes. He's wanted Cody to win.
Yes. And
you got it right.
And it was one of those. And if, guys, if you have not watched my fantasy booking of the Royal Rumble, please go watch it. No word of a lie. I did not say it in the video. It took me over 20 hours to do this video.
Wow.
Because of re-records and audio screw-ups, and I literally did the entire video and realized that I forgot to put the pictures up on my record. And so I had to redo the whole thing, and then when I redid the whole thing, the audio screwed up. So I had to redo it 3 full times just to get something, and then I hated the way I finished the match, and so I had to re-record the last 20 minutes of it. And so it just was, it was a mess. So seriously, I worked my butt off on it.
Yes, it looked good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And so if you guys, I know it's past the Rumble now, so it doesn't matter. But I worked very hard on it. And I would honestly love to know, now that the Rumble's over, if you guys liked the way the Rumble happened in real life better than when I had it. I didn't like it better than the way I had it. And that's not just because I'm biased. It's because, quite frankly, the Men's Rumble was mildly disappointing. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, so again, you know, there were good things about it being there. I think, you know, I don't know. I think the TV broadcast kind of caught it a little bit, but I will tell you that when I watched back, like, the key parts of the Rumble, when I wanted to compare them to the live, when Andrade came back, the crowd was had a lot more buzz to it than what the TV broadcast, I think, really portrayed.
Okay, cool.
I think
it seemed like the crowd almost took the crowd to realize, because at first I didn't realize who it was, just because I don't know of his time his time as a luchador or in Lucha Underground.
Well, I mean, I knew it as soon as I heard El Idolo from his music, and so I was like, "Oh my!" Like Michael Cole would say, "Oh my!" Awful.
I didn't pick the music the first time watching it, so that's what I think probably I didn't throw it off, but I kind of wonder if people didn't quite recognize the music or the mask. If people were like, "Oh, that's who's back." Yeah, and I think you did pick it up on the broadcast again a little bit. For a lot of the crowd, it took until he took his mask off. Yeah, that you kind of heard it, like everybody realized it, but like I didn't even see Andrade flash up on the Titantron yet, and I was like, "Oh, Andrade's here! Holy crap!" And that's racing. You know, that's where my wrestling background isn't like, you know, the best. Where it's like I don't know everybody's walk-up music. Like sure, you know, some are easy to recognize, but those that were like, especially if I wasn't watching for a while, you know, it's like, oh, that's what it was. But now it's like, oh yeah, and it was nice to see him back. Oh, of course, and I can't wait to see where he's always looked great, and he's gotten better over the years. Yeah, he's with Raw. He's on Raw, which is weird because his wife is not. But that's okay. Yeah. But I mean, granted, she's hurt for a year, so I mean, again, you can do whatever you want. They could draft her. Sure. Or they could draft on the same show. Yeah. I hope they do. You know, hope they do something. For sure. But again, you know, those are some of the good things that happened there. But honestly, I was really like, I expected more, and I think that that's the theme of the show. Honestly, is that, and I think that's one of the reasons why the crowd was so bad. It's because I think this Rumble, the unfortunate mistake that they made was the amount of overhyped rumors that spotted up
was just insane for what they put out. Because if you think about it, for the women, Sasha Banks,
right,
AJ Lee, those were the two big cash cows that people were thinking were going to be there, and neither of them were there. And so when number 30 rolled around, and it was Liv Morgan, while we all love Liv Morgan, a lot of people wanted to see Sasha or AJ Lee. And so they were kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
For the men, Brock Lesnar, Rock, right? Like, those were your two cash cows.
I'm glad Rock wasn't there.
I am also glad that Rock was not there, but you mentioned earlier that Sammy didn't get the pop he deserved, and it's because he was not the Rock.
That makes sense.
And everybody in that arena, including me, even though I knew he wasn't going to be there, I mean, dude, The Rock was my hero growing up.
Oh, yeah.
Of course I'd want to hear, if you submit, and have everybody faint in unison. Like, of course.
Heck, Rowan himself might have fainted out on the skybox up there.
Yeah, right. So, like, of course you want to see The Rock. And if The Rock is, like, rumored to be there, and it makes sense for him to be there, and then he's not there, it's mildly disappointing to people. Yeah. And so, like, that's the feeling that you get. But I try not to let those expectations dictate how I felt about the Rumble. The most disappointing aspect of it was the crowd for me. I think the crowd was... Not only do I think the crowd wasn't good, I think the crowd was bad. I honestly believe that there was more energy last night in a much smaller arena in Tampa for Raw than there was for the Rumble.
Interesting.
Like, really. I just think that the crowd, for some reason, just wasn't into it.
Do you think being in a domed baseball stadium like that worked against them?
So I think
certainly almost 50,000 people.
So I think it definitely didn't help. But also, they did it in Houston. And that crowd was bonkers, and they didn't have a roof, which means that the sound kind of carries away.
Yes.
So I think that. So
I'm assuming the dome was closed.
Yes, of course. Yeah. They very rarely open the dome in the Trop during this time of year. Yeah. But again, it was just mildly disappointing that the crowd kind of let everybody down. As big of a Kevin Owens fan as I am. The man worked through a fractured foot and a broken hand.
Yeah, that just came out. I was like, what?
No one gave a rip in that crowd. No one cared. To be fair, because we all knew how it was going to end. We knew that Kevin Owens wasn't going to win.
He did his best to make sure to make us think it wasn't, though.
Right, but at the same time, that's on the crowd. Like, you cannot. I understand that you may already know how it ends. But I know I didn't know how it ended specifically. Yeah. I did not see how they ended that match coming. And I truly was sitting there going, oh my God, like 1, 2, no way, he's winning? And then this close to the ground, brass knuckles, and I went, oh my God, that's good. Like, I was like, wow, they got me. Like that, like that pulled me in. But the crowd was like, 1, 2, disqualification. Okay, can we watch the Rumble now? Like, they were just dead, and that bothered me. That bothered me.
Do you think it would have been any better if they would have put it before Roman's match?
Yes.
I was shocked it was the other way around.
Well, no. I actually don't, because I think that the energy was sapped out of the crowd after the Women's Rumble, because everybody, I mean, when Bayley won, everybody went crazy for her, as she very much well deserves. Mm-hmm. And so, everybody was super happy for her. I was a little upset that I got my prediction wrong, because I would have gone 2 for 2, and I was literally 3 seconds away from going 2 for 2. Because she got eliminated, then Liv immediately got eliminated. So I was literally 3 seconds away from going 2 for 2 on predictions. Yes. But that's okay. She didn't need to win that. She didn't need to win that Rumble. I think Bayley, kind of as the stories kind of kept coming out, it's Bayley's year. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I kind of do want Bayley to win. Like, I think she deserves it. And and so again, the crowd was a little disappointing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what I've been kind of hearing, just listening to different podcasts and reading some stuff that, but and it kind of came across in the broadcast, but, watching the broadcast, you get the benefit of commentary, which was amazing with Pat McAfee.
Always is.
Always is. And now him and Cole are Raw until further notice.
Yes. So you know what's amazing is I understand that it's probably just because Kevin Patrick is gone now, which is sad because I liked him.
Yeah, I don't think he did as bad as people think, but I mean, I'm not the person to make that decision.
Sure.
So I didn't quite like him, but I don't think...
I think he definitely wasn't great. But he wasn't, I don't think he was a fireable, I don't think it was that bad. But, I'm still hanging on to hope that we're going to get Corey Graves versus Pat McAfee.
Okay, let's talk
I understand that that's not going to happen, and it's just because they needed to move somebody to SmackDown. And so they were like, Pat McAfee will do Raw because that works better for his podcast schedule. So why don't we just move Michael Cole to Raw and move Corey Graves to SmackDown with Wade Barrett?
Yeah.
I'm basically 100%
officially on SmackDown.
Oh, he's been on SmackDown commentary for... Oh, no, he's been on Raw, hasn't he?
Yes.
I don't know what they're going to do there.
Because he was with
It's alive! That's what I just discovered. That's what they're doing.
SmackDown, and then they flipped Graves to SmackDown. They flipped the two.
I think they're just going to do Graves and Barrett on SmackDown.
I hope they do, because I like Barrett. Barrett has the
yeah.
history of being in in WWE for a long time. So
yeah, but the problem with that is that both of them are kind of quote unquote heel commentators. They're not really heel commentators, but Wade Barrett, he kind of takes sympathy. He likes Grayson Waller, and he takes some sympathies for some bad guys, as does Corey Graves. So that's going to be a weird dynamic. Which one of them? First of all, which one of them is going to be play-by-play?
Yeah.
Which one of them is going to be
because they're both
the bad guy?
Yeah.
It's going to be. I assume it's going to have to be Corey Graves is going to be play-by-play, but that's not really his strength. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, unless they bring a third person.
But anyway, you wanted to talk about Corey Graves versus Pat McAfee.
Wait. Well, we're going all over the place, so that's fine. We're going to get to all these points at some point. We're on 30 minutes in. Oh, yeah, we're definitely going 3 hours here.
I hope not.
Hang on,
I'm
everybody.
so sorry. Please don't go 3 hours.
No, we're fine. Hang on, everybody. Buckle your seatbelts. When you were showing me kind of your very early Rumble order, and you had McAfee and Graves, or you might have had Graves first. I don't know.
I had Graves first, yeah.
That was something I think I said to you. I don't know if we actually put it into a podcast or not. That I'm I've been waiting for them to have some kind of match, some kind of in-ring interaction because of their... I don't know if it's a work or not, because of their hatred for each other. I think, because I think that'd just be widely entertaining. Graves has been cleared for at least a year now, maybe 2. I don't remember exactly how long he's been cleared. But he's actually been cleared. We've always seen McAfee in the ring a few times. Stunner. That WrestleMania was amazing, by the way. Mm-hmm. That moment, WrestleMania moment, was one of my favorites in recent memory. So when you said that, I was like, someone who's in my line of thinking, I didn't even tee him up for it. Because, so then when McAfee actually, his music hits.
Oh, that was my first thought. No way are they doing it? Yes! And then they didn't do it.
I'm like, I was let down with that.
Yeah, me too. Everybody in the crowd was. It was a little funny, though, to be honest.
I love the spot itself, because, yes, he's like, I'm going in, not going in. Because then at first he looks at Braun. Then he gets out. He's like, no, I'll go back in. And he looks at Omos, and he's like, no. The quote before his music actually hit, when Omos came out, I love this. Because I wrote it down word for word, so I'm pretty sure I'm getting this right here. He's like, 7'3", 415 pounds. I didn't know humans came like that. That's why he's commentary gold. And when he even joined Cole back when they were in SmackDown, and as we were kind of coming out of the pandemic and the getting live crowds again, I feel like that re-energized Michael Cole.
Oh, yes.
And that was also kind of around the time where it was more Triple H starting to take control, so it wasn't Vince and Michael Cole's ear all the time. All commentators have told us that they were constantly getting yelled at by backstage in their ears and all the time. So, I mean, that obviously probably did a little bit too, but I feel... So all that together just, re-energized, made Michael Cole a new man. I love listening to Michael Cole. Obviously, he shouldn't have to do both shows. I like when he does both shows, but he shouldn't have to... But now that they're on Raw, I'm just like, wow. And I always loved how, McAfee is just like a fan that gets to sit at commentary to me.
Yeah.
He's not he's not a face commentator, he's not a heel commentator. He just tells it like he is, and he's unfiltered.
Yeah, he's himself. Yep.
Very, very himself. Maybe slightly filtered, but very himself, which is great. I think it works perfectly with WWE. It always was great for SmackDown. Now we get an extra hour of him on Raw. Love it.
Oh yeah, I love it too. And again, I'm holding out hope that it leads to that Corey Graves match.
I think it's even more where it's like maybe you do a traditional Survivor Series. There's a team captain or something.
Yeah, Team Graves versus Team McAfee War Games 2025 or 2024.
He has been in a War Games match. McAfee
has been in a War Games match.
That's what got me
wildly unsuccessful in that match, but he did the best he could.
That was oddly enough, that was my kind of entry into two things of NXT and of who's this Pat McAfee kid.
Interesting guy, yeah.
I
knew who Pat McAfee was long before he came to WWE. I was very intrigued when I saw him punt Adam Cole during a segment on NXT, and he knocked him clean out, and I was like, is he gonna do a match? Because I'm in. That's awesome. Because I actually, weirdly enough, I got introduced to Pat McAfee in the least famous thing that Pat McAfee's ever done, and that is his stand-up comedy. He had a 40-minute... Yeah, you didn't even know it existed. He had a 40-minute stand-up comedy special, and it said on YouTube, I don't know if it's even still up, it might not be. This is years and years and years and years ago. This is probably a good 8-10 years ago. Former NFL punter tries stand-up comedy or something like that.
Okay.
And I was like, interesting. I'm going to give it a shot. So I watched it, and it was the former punter of the Indianapolis Colts, Pat McAfee, and he was genuinely very funny.
I can see
and
that.
I was like, hey. I mean, he's the most natural stand-up comedian in the world for the flow of that? No. But he told funny stories. He told unique stories about, Peyton Manning going to a casino. And I don't know if you've ever heard the Red 18 story that he told where Peyton Manning walked up and he goes, hey, Red 18. And then everybody put all their chips on 18. And then guess what it hit? 18, and everybody went, oh my god, he's the Lord. It was a whole, he was the whole thing, and he came up and smacked Pat McAfee on the butt, and then everybody turned around and looked at him. He's like, who the hell's this guy that Peyton Manning just smacked him on the butt? Because he was just a first or second year punter. No one knew who the heck he was. So, but that's how I got introduced to Pat McAfee, and then I started watching his podcasts, and obviously,
he's had his podcast forever.
Yeah, I knew him from the NFL as well. Once I saw who it was, I'm like, oh, I remember that guy. Yeah, and he was very good. He was very good. And then he punted Adam. He did commentary and did some interviews at WWE. I'm like, oh, good for him. He's a fan and he gets to come in and do some stuff. That's cool. Yeah. And then he, again, punted Adam Cole, and I was like, are they gonna have a match? And then they did, and he was really good. And I was like, who is this man? He can't. There's nothing this man.
No, he
can't do. Excuse me.
And then the rest of the world found out who he was. The one, I will say, I don't remember when it was, but he had Brock Lesnar on his show.
Oh, that's one of my favorite interviews. Yeah, it's so good.
Because it's a great interview the whole time, then all of a sudden he, quote unquote, triggers Brock, and Brock just tears everything apart. I'm like, yeah! I would roll this all, it's like, what?
Oh, yeah. There was a funny freaking moment in that podcast right at the beginning where Pat McAfee was just kidding around. He goes, hey, Brock, don't break our tables, okay? Just don't do that. And then he just, bam, and then just destroys the table. And everybody just starts dying laughing. And he goes, sorry about that. I don't know. Let me pick it up. And he put the table back together. And they were just like, I once heard somebody describe you as Bam Bam. And I literally just got to see hands up and hands down. Just everything's destroyed. No, but yeah. So, what other questions? What other things did you want to know?
Let's get to the matches. I was very. I think the most thing I was really curious about was just the live experience. We've talked about this before. We've experienced a live Raw. I've done a live Superstars main event on a Saturday or Sunday. Been to one of those, and those are fun too. But I've always been the PLES brings something extra. I didn't have this until a couple years ago, but I have a. Either a Big 5 PLE or even a WrestleMania PLE on my bucket list to attend one day. Mm-hmm. So I was very curious about that. But let's hit the matches. Okay. So we talked about Naomi, talked about Jordan. One thing that really stood out from the women's match too, early middle of the match, was Chelsea Green. One, she lasted more than 5 seconds. So
that was good.
Kudos to her.
That was good. Yep, she did. She
took so many bumps though, getting put in the corner or in the middle of Piper and Nia. I was like,
which Nia botched that too. I mean, Nia basically was on a botching spree during the Rumble. It was freaking frustrating.
interesting.
Oh yeah, like she didn't throw out Shayna Baszler quite right. She, I forget who it was. It Selena Vega? No, that was Zoe Stark that eliminated Selena Vega. I forget, there was Shotzi maybe? She like overshot, that's difficult to say, overshot Shotzi when she eliminated her and almost threw her over the crowd of people that she was supposed to land on. Like she landed on like the back half of them.
Oh wow.
So like it was like almost threw it over, overthrew her. Like it was one of those things where I was just sitting there. I didn't say anything to my wife because I mean I'd be preaching to the choir because she doesn't like Nia Jax either. But and I like to be positive. I don't like to say mean things. But I would have been okay if I never saw Nia Jax again in my entire life on our television screens. I'm sorry. She just doesn't do anything for me. Everything that I've read and everything that I've seen, she is so kind and nice outside of the ring, and that's wonderful. I'm glad you're a good person. But as a wrestler, I can't stand her. Like, I just... Because I'm a big Kairi Sane fan. I always have been since she was in Japan. And when the story came out that Nia Jax beat her so bad in the ring, and I don't mean like beat her storyline, I mean like landed on her, threw her around too rough, that she wanted to quit WWE, and then she did. I'm like, really? Like, what more do you need to know? Like, this is a person that's been wrestling for 15 years, all around the world, is one of the most skilled in-ring performers we have in this business, and it made her want to quit wrestling this person one time.
Yeah.
Like, she wrestled Awesome Kong, who is very similar in body type. Did you ever hear about Kairi Sane wanting to quit after wrestling Awesome Kong? No. So anyway, that's my rant. But there was a lot of things that maybe on the broadcast they covered up, or you know, you didn't see from the right angle. But like from where I was looking, I was just sitting there watching the Titantron and watching the ring, just Nia stomping around. Just
interesting.
It was frustrating because she was basically doing everything in her power to like. It looked like she was doing everything in her power to make everybody else look bad.
Interesting. Well, even more kudos to Chelsea Green then, because I mean, she took a lot of vicious bumps between the two of them.
I mean, think of it. What was supposed to be the big spot? Chelsea Green standing in the middle of the ring, Piper and Nia coming together and landing on Chelsea. Mm-hmm. Piper hit Chelsea in the back, and Nia went that way, and she missed completely. How can you not run straight forward? How can you miss Piper Niven? How can you miss that target? It's a human being. You just run into them. Like
two human beings. Run into them.
Like, and I just sat there. I'm like, oh my god, Nia, can you do anything right? Like, it was like one of those things. And again, I don't. Everything I've heard, she's a wonderful human being. And if I ever met her in real life, I'm sure she's a wonderful person. And I would shake her hand and tell her that she's had a great career and done great for herself. But my God, there's just some nights where I watch her and I just cannot take it. And that's just my honest opinion. Feel free to yell at me and tell me that she's Queen Yas or whatever you want to say in the comment. I don't care. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, there's always reports. I mean,
that's why I didn't want the Nia Jax main event of WrestleMania that you had going.
Yeah, well, I'm obviously wrong.
No,
I'm obviously wrong there. You know, Chamber might be your best shot at it, but we might not even get that at this point. The way so many things could kind of go down here. Another person I thought was obviously good. Not surprised, but Bianca just. Especially when Jade got into the ring, like those two kind of showing off, kind of doing, oh, you can do this, I can do it better, kind of thing. It's like, and kind of going back to Nia. There's when Jade came out to my wife, that's probably the one of two people in the ring that can probably lift up and throw out Nia by herself, which I wasn't really expecting her. That actually be the spot where
how easily did she pick her up too?
Oh yeah, with ease. But and Bianca's the only other person I feel like could do that by herself. Because Bianca's that
know if Bianca could do that by herself. Tell you the truth.
I mean, she carried Otis on her shoulders for halfway.
On her shoulders, okay. When you carry somebody on your shoulders, you have your entire strength of your core and your legs to use. I'm sure Bianca could do that, but to hold up Nia Jax like this, Bianca could not do that. Only Jade could do that. And that's why I was saying when I talked about Jade winning the Rumble in my predictions, I also predicted her to do literally exactly what she did, which is Nia's destroying everybody. Jade comes out, eliminates her by herself, and picks her. And I said, I don't know if it's physically possible for Jade to do this. I've seen her do some incredible things in the ring, but I don't know if she can hoist her up like she's going to body slam her and throw her out. Yeah. And she did. She did. Which I figured she could. I just didn't know, obviously. Right. I hadn't seen it, so.
Yeah, no, I definitely, when the spots with Jade and I definitely was like, yep, he called that.
Yeah. And it was so funny. So, like, I've watched... Okay, so this is how psychotic I am with Rumbles. This is how much of a fan I am of Rumbles. The night before the Rumble, we were having trouble sleeping, my wife and I. And we decided to play, like, a couple quiz games back and forth and just kind of try and get ourselves to relax and go to sleep. And I said, I'm going to name every single winner of every single Royal Rumble in reverse chronological order. I think Parts Fun Known did a video on that. It was really, really cool. I did. And I think I messed up once. And I always mess up around like 2013 to 2010. Because I always get like one of them mixed up. Like I always like mix up like 12 and 11 or 10 and 11 or whatever it is, right? Like I get it mixed up. But then after that, I could just go. And then my wife was like, well, that wasn't very hard for you. And I'm like, nah, really. It was like legit like midnight and I'm exhausted, but I can't sleep. So I'm like half thinking. And she was like, okay, why don't you name the runner-ups? And I'm like, okay. And then I named all of the last eliminations. And she was like, you just did that straight off of memory. You didn't look at anything before? No, I haven't looked at it in a long time. Like, I just do it straight off of memory. I am psychotic when it comes to Royal Rumble. I'm psychotic to the flow of it. I'm psychotic to, like, so whenever you see a, like, big wrestler throwing 5 people out at once, or not at once, but you know what I'm saying, like, just, oh, you're gone, then you're gone, then you're gone. Right. And if you're watching at home and you hear the commentary team say something along the lines of, my goodness, 4 eliminations for Nia Jax. Who on earth can stop Nia Jax now? And you know it's going to be a big superstar. Not either big, literally speaking, or personality and, like, spot on the card speaking.
Yes.
And I twice, Nia eliminated 2 or 3 people in a matter of a couple seconds. I looked at my wife and I said, I wonder who's going to come out now. And she was like, well, who is it? And I'm like, who do you think? She goes, is it Becky? And then literally, whoa, next pick. That pick. And I'm like, there you go. And then when she threw out 4 more people, I went, I wonder who's coming out now. And the funny part was, I didn't get to say that to my wife because my wife chose that moment to go to the bathroom. And literally, that pick, 18 seconds after my wife left her seat and went to the bathroom, Jade came out, and I was like, I should have stopped her. I knew it was coming. I should have said something. I knew that she was coming out. Like, I literally should have looked at my wife and said, honey, if you can just hold your pee for 3 minutes, I am 100% positive that Jade Cargill is coming out at number 28. Look at me. 100% certain that she's coming out at number 30. Or 28. I should have said that. I did not. I let her go. Because I'm like, hey, maybe I'll be wrong. And then, because if I'm wrong, and like Liv Morgan comes out at 28, she'll be like, I hate you, now I really have to pee. And then, then it's just a fight, and we don't want that. But, of course, it was Jade. And I was like, yep, saw that coming. Like, oh my God, who's going to stop Nia? Oh, she can stop her. Wow. Like, that happens every Rumble like 4 times. So, right. I saw it coming, but yeah, Jade, Bianca looked great. She always does. She's incredible in the ring. It's amazing to see where she's come from. The first time I saw her was actually at a live event. I didn't really watch her stuff on NXT. I was bad. I wouldn't watch the whole show of NXT. I would just fast forward, and then when I saw like the flashing images of somebody I liked, I would rewind and pause, and then just watch their match, and then I would watch. And I didn't care about Bianca Belair for a little while, and not a lot of other people did either. I know it's hard for people to admit now, but she was not very polished in the ring. She wasn't very good personality-wise.
More wrestlers than most.
Yeah, of course. And now she's fantastic. I mean, she can do whatever she wants. She's great, but she looked really good. I think that definitely there was a buzz when her and Bianca faced off, or excuse me, her and Jade faced off.
I can't wait when they get that.
That's going to be very interesting, and obviously Jade needs to go over. Jade needs to win like every single match that she's in for the next 4 years. No, I'm not kidding. Like, I know that sounds ridiculous. Like, I'm not joking.
But
like, she needs to just kill everyone. Yeah.
the physique of her is just one of those where it's like, it'd be one of those like, wait, how did she lose that match again?
Yeah, like you can't have her get rolled up.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Really? Tegan Knox is going to hold her down. Are you sure about that? Like, no offense to Tegan Knox, but she's just a normal person. Like, Jade is not a normal human being. Like, you could just tell by looking at her. She's not a normal human being.
If they give her, like, the Tegan Knox's, Chelsea Green's, her first couple matches, just be like, hey, get some in-ring experience with a couple people, and then they start giving her the big matches. Or if they just go right to the big matches. To me, that's what's interesting. It'll be interesting with her, what brand she's on, you know.
I mean, if it were up to me, there would be a Jade Cargill wins a championship at Money in the Bank. Chelsea Green wins Money in the Bank, Miss Money in the Bank. And then, around a year later, Jade is still champion, and then the reason she loses is because she gets Money in the Bank cashed in on her. And that's like her first pinfall loss.
Yeah.
But then she's on the quest to get the title back and
right.
shenanigans and stuff. So like that would be my kind of way of doing it. But she's got to beat everybody first.
Yeah.
I mean, she's going to have to run through the entire gambit of the industry. Charlotte, Bianca, Becky, Nia, Rhea, like run through a gambit of everybody. Bailey, yep. If Sasha comes back, Sasha, Naomi, like just run through the gambit. Beat everybody because she is the present. Look. Tony Khan is famous for not really booking his women's division well.
Right.
He booked Jade well. That's how, like, you can't not book Jade well unless she loses. Like, that's it. Like, there's no excuses. It's just look at her.
Right.
Like, can you beat her? I can't. Like, no. So it's one of those things. But yeah, what else stood out to you?
Well, and I guess again, Bailey. We'll talk about her in a second. But I thought it was interesting too, where. At least commentary played this up, so I wasn't sure what you thought, but I thought it was interesting that the Kabuki Warriors were in the Rumble as well. I mean, kind of, going to the fact of if you're not going to use Legends, you kind of need to use the whole women's roster, especially with the women's matches on the card. But it was kind of like, the commentary was kind of like, did they come out to help her, or did they come out just to make sure she doesn't get, what was it? But, obviously Saka and Kairi were both, eliminated fairly quickly after they come out, if I remember correctly. But I just thought that was interesting that they were kind of, I don't know if there's too much. I just wonder if there's too much to read into it storyline wise with Damage Control or not. I don't know if you had any thoughts there on, all three of them kind of being in the ring.
Gotcha.
It's, obviously Bailey, great. I think it's a great storyline for her to win. She's already kind of even declared him going after Rhea, but hasn't like officially declared it. So I find that interesting too.
Gotcha.
So what else? Yeah, Damage Control I think was interesting, just with Kabuki Warriors, both appearing in the Rumble after Bailey. Sorry, had gotten in, because I think even Bailey was kind of confused why they were there. It's like, hey, I'm supposed to be doing this on my own. You want me to do this on my own? You want me to get the other goals? We all have gold, kind of thing. So I thought that was interesting that they both showed up to. They didn't last long. I don't remember who eliminated them off the top of my head. I almost had it written out. I was like, oh, this is who eliminated who. But I was like,
Well, they were both eliminated by Chance and Katana.
That's right.
Chance and Kane Carter.
Which I think was nice, since they just lost the titles to them too, which was surprising that they already did a title swap again. But that's something we can get into some other another time, unless you want to talk about that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, obviously the roster depth. If you're not using Legends, you kind of need to use the whole women's roster if they're not holding a title. But I just thought that was an odd inclusion for them. But I guess it kind of helped the Bailey story. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think what they were going for was they didn't really follow up on it yet on Raw. So I mean, I guess it's possible that they'll follow up with it more on SmackDown. And if they feel like that Bailey should win the Royal Rumble on their own. Or on her own. I don't know why I keep saying there. I'm sorry. If they feel like she should win the Rumble on her own, and then they enter the Rumble, then maybe it's to, they can say, oh, well, you didn't win it on your own. We helped you.
Right.
And Bailey could be like, barely. Like, it would like, yeah, like, no, I helped you more than you helped me. And they'll be like, no. Like, and maybe that just helps further that. Now,
yeah.
I could be obviously wrong with that. I think that there was more of a, there could be more of like selfish reasons, like they wanted to stick it to Bailey and then they didn't, or I don't really know what the reasoning was.
Yeah.
I think the first one makes the most sense to me. It's to kind of make
a seed of dissension.
Yeah, make a shallow argument that she actually didn't win it on her own, right. And she was like, "Well, I tried to win it. Oh well, try's not good enough. You should have done it on your own. You shouldn't have requested Asuka and Kairi Sane to be in the. I didn't request it. Yes, you did. Like you just never know what's gonna where that's gonna go.
It could go a lot of different directions. Yeah, no, I think it will. You know, I find it interesting that she's already very, very publicly, at least, not like on TV yet. And she's very publicly like indicated she's going after Rhea. But it's like, you know, Friday, does she get to change? Does she change her mind Friday? Does something happen Friday to where she decides to not say it publicly yet, or to say it on TV yet, to where so we get another week or two until she finally says? Because I mean, I have these things, so I'm very curious if you're thinking this too. That if you're having Bailey win the Rumble, it's eventually going to lead to Bailey and Io for the title at Mania, not Bailey and Rhea. But that's just my thought. That's like I don't see storyline wise where they're at right now with Damage Control of her actually being able to have a chance to go after Rhea. I think she's going to change her mind and say, "Nah, Io, I'm getting tired of you and this whole Damage Control thing. I want to be by myself again." And the way she kind of addressed her character as a whole too in the press conference afterwards kind of has me thinking this too, where it's like I think she might actually change her mind and go after Io just because her character keeps developing and she's still true. You know, she claims to be very true to herself no matter what her character has been. You know, in WWE, but I feel like she kind of always has been. You know, because she had the chip on her shoulder for a long time. She's won just about everything you can win now, so it's like maybe she decides like, you know what, I don't need this faction anymore. I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I think the obvious direction is going after Io. I don't see any reason why Bailey would ever go after Rhea Ripley. I think that the storyline is clearly there for Bailey to split from Damage Control, and then for all parties to separate. And if anything, it's just because logistically they need to, because SmackDown doesn't have enough women to deal with it. Yeah. So for me, I think that the way you've got to do it is, and not necessarily you can have Bailey pick Io however you choose to see fit. But I think that at the end of the day, Bailey's not going to make her announcement on Friday. Bailey's not going to make her announcement next Friday. She's not going to make her announcement until at the Elimination Chamber or after the Elimination Chamber. Mm-hmm. I don't think you should have Bailey reveal who she's going after, because I think that's another point of dissension, because you could see the look on Io's face on Monday that she was disappointed either that Bailey was cowering to Nia Jax or that Bailey did not announce who she was going after, because I think Io is worried that Bailey's going after her.
Yeah,
I think that's what they're going for.
Right.
It's kind of tough to tell sometimes, but
it is, because I mean, obviously, like we talked at the top of the podcast, it's very, there's rumors out there that we're pretty sure it's gonna happen, but then it's kind of like, well, we get a little sprinkle of that, sprinkle of this. They've teased breaking the Damage Control apart how many times in the last year? Only to bring in Kairi, only to do other things, other storylines to affect. I'm not doing it quite yet, but now that Bailey's on the Rumble, it seems like they're getting to pull the trigger here a lot sooner than we may have thought. We may have initially thought. So.
Yep. And for me, again, I think that the way you got to do is especially now that Seth is gonna basically be AWOL match-wise until WrestleMania. You cannot you cannot have a men's chamber, as far as I'm concerned, unless you're doing an Intercontinental Championship chamber, which I don't think you should do. I think you should do 2 women's chambers. I think you should bookend the shows with SmackDown women's or Sorry. WWE Women's Championship and Women's World Title. I think that's what you should do. You should bookend 2 women's chambers. Just go for it.
I mean, take title was one of them.
And I think what you should do, and I think the really fun way of doing it would be Bayley is on commentary all night. She's on commentary.
Can you imagine Bayley on commentary?
No. Bayley and Michael Cole.
Well, yeah,
because they hate each other.
But I mean,
I'm sure not in real life. I'm sure they're fine in real life. But like storyline, like for years, Bayley's even on Monday she picked on Michael Cole. Like they hate each other. So an entire show of Bayley and Michael Cole on commentary would make me giggle for hours. And so I would like Bayley to just be on commentary all night. And come out to open the show. Grab the microphone and to the crowd on the television say, at the end of the night, I'm going to tell you which woman I'm going after. But I need to know who wins these chambers first. Making it seem like she's strategic.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And and she can even say, but I think I already know who I'm picking.
Yeah.
And everybody will be like, oh, she's probably picking whoever wins the Women's World Title Chamber at the end of the night. And then have, the chamber raise up as Rhea, hopefully, retains. I think Rhea Ripley should win the title in the main event. That's what I think you should do because she's Australian. You should do that.
I'd be shocked if they put her in something like that and she didn't.
Oh, no, you know what? I just realized they can't do that because they're doing stupid Nia Jax. Dang it! She ruins everything. Anyway, so here's why.
Actually official?
Here's why. I mean, they've gotta be. I mean, they're doing the whole storyline. Yeah, but I mean, hear me out. My idea is better.
Well, that's what I say. That's why you go with women. One of the other women's with Io's title, and you go with the tag titles. But yeah, still.
Yeah, I mean, you could still do most of my story with Rhea versus Nia Jax, I guess, but then you'd only have one chamber unless you did an Intercontinental Championship chamber or a United States Championship chamber, which there ain't no way on earth they're doing a U.S. Championship chamber. There's just no way. No. So I guess you could do an IC title chamber with Gunther and then 5 other dudes that he's going to beat to death. I mean, I guess.
Let's pick that one up later.
Yeah. So anyway, with that,
that's my ideas there. That's what I said.
Yeah. With that, I think that Bayley should be on commentary all night, and Rhea should retain in the main event, and then Damage Control should come out and beat down Rhea Ripley, look like Bayley. Bayley grabs the microphone and says, "Like I said, I already know who I'm gonna pick. Io Sky," and turns around and gets right in Io's face. And everybody goes, wah! Loses it, right? And right. She, and then, you could have Damage Control attack her, I guess, or just run away shocked or what, I don't freaking know, whatever you want to do. Right. And just have it be a swerve. Have it be Bayley planned to this, they attacked Rhea, it's going to be Bayley versus Rhea at WrestleMania, but then she swerves Damage Control. She was one step ahead of Damage Control for once. Because I feel like this whole thing is Bayley never understands what Damage Control is doing. Now Damage Control doesn't know what she's doing.
Right.
And so flip the script on that. I think that's a good way to do it. But yeah. So for the Rumble stuff, I don't know, man. I think that maybe they were just going for they were going to use the excuse that Bayley didn't win it on her own and hold that against her. Yeah. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. It was a little bizarre, considering they were telling her that they weren't going to be in it and they were going to do it on their own, right. and they didn't. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways to do it. Is there anybody else that stood out to you in the women's Rumble?
I mean, Jordynne Grace did fantastic. Mm-hmm. I think she looked great. There's so many good wrestlers all around the world in so many different promotions that I think if you plugged them in and you treated them right in WWE, they'd be great.
Yeah.
She obviously knows how to work television. Being in TNA, they have television.
Yep.
Or they're on television. Not that they have television, but I'm sure they do too. She looked great. I mean, my goodness, Naomi looked amazing. She always has. Everybody knows how good she is, and she just wasn't used right. Who
but
else?
Now Triple H will.
Yeah, we certainly hope.
Do you think she goes to SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown. I think she goes to SmackDown. Because I hope she goes to SmackDown.
Yeah.
Because they just need bodies. At
Right.
this point.
They need the bodies. Yeah.
But I think that she I think she'll be in a prominent role at WrestleMania. I'm having a hard time figuring out where.
Right.
Because you want her to be in a real big money match. Maybe you do. Speaking of money,
right? And
maybe you do that. Maybe you do one-on-one. The two former tag partners that left in solidarity have now returned and are fighting each other at WrestleMania. That's interesting to me. Maybe you do that because I think at this point you're either doing Jade and Rhea or Becky and Rhea at Mania. Maybe you do Naomi versus Bianca if Jade is doing something else,
right.
Or maybe you do if Becky's not in the title match, you do Naomi versus Becky. I don't know. Yeah. Like you gotta. There's something.
Options, yeah.
There should be something that she can do, but I have no clue what she would do.
I don't think you want to throw her you wouldn't probably have a number one contenders match at WrestleMania anyway, but I don't think you want to throw her in a number one match.
No, I don't think. I definitely don't think so. But she looked great. I think she looked quite frankly better than she ever has.
That was cool how her name was written in her hair. That was pretty cool. My wife noticed that before I did.
Yeah, I didn't notice it because I couldn't see that close. But I didn't notice that until I watched the broadcast back. So that was pretty cool as well. My favorite moment not my favorite moment of the entire night. You know what my favorite moment of the entire night was. But my second favorite moment of the entire night was after her music stopped and the bell rang and she just started crying. That was, I'm just like, and
Natty even was like, welcome back. Mm-hmm. She wasn't like, let's go right away. She was like, Natty understood the moment. Natty's a veteran. She understands. So she understood the moment there for her. And
for sure.
I think that was nice and a good person there to kind of tussle with right at the start. And
for sure.
There's a lot of well-placed people throughout the I don't know. I personally like some of the more spots throughout the men's rumble than the women's rumble, but I felt looking back on the women's rumble, there were some well placed people and spots at kind of the right timing. For
sure. So I'll say this just to kind of move on because we've been recording for somewhere around an hour here and we haven't even gotten to 3/4 of the matches. But when I watched. Obviously I watched live the Fatal 4-Way. I was so bored.
Really?
Yeah. And here's why. So one of the main reasons why I wanted the Fatal 4-Way is because I didn't think there would be any opportunities for Roman to wrestle the way Roman does. Slow, plodding.
Right.
Appealing to the crowd, talking trash, one move every 3 minutes, punch, I'm the greatest, 2.5 minutes goes by, punch, I'm the greatest, 2.5 minutes goes by. Look,
you don't like this, do you?
I know.
You don't like this guy, do you, at all?
Oh, I love Roman Reigns. No, I do. I think that he but at this point, I am bloody well over it. It's been 4 years. Knock it off. We're good. I get it. You're awesome. You're the greatest champion in modern history. You're a first ballot Hall of Famer. You may very well go down as the greatest wrestler in history because of the era that you performed in being infinitely more difficult than the era that others performed in. And the feats that you have achieved, forget it. I get it. I do. But I wanted a faster paced Roman Reigns match that looked different. And essentially all it was two dudes taking each other out and Roman being in the ring and doing a slow and plodding match for 5 minutes with one guy. And then he throws him out of the ring. And then another guy comes in. And it's a slow and plodding Roman Reigns match with that guy. And then he throws him out of the ring. And then it's a slow and plodding match with the third guy. And then he throws him out of the ring. And then they beat up each other. And then at the very end, all three of the guys fight. And then Roman takes advantage and he wins. And I'm just like, they couldn't come up with any... It should be that every time Roman Reigns went to deal with the crowd, he would turn around and get beat up by one of the other guys. That's what it should have been.
Yeah.
He can't showboat. He's got to have his head on a swivel because this is the first time in a long time that he's had 3 headhunters coming after him at once. But instead, it was, I break you in half. I'm the greatest. I break you in half now. I'm the greatest. It's been 20 minutes. I should go now. Come on. Like, you couldn't come up with anything else? I mean, poor LA Knight did nothing after the first 3 minutes of the match. He was outside the ring the entire match until the very end. It was ridiculous. The only spark in that match was Randy Orton hitting 3 straight RKOs. That was the only spark in the whole dang fireplace that never sparked a fire because no one ever did anything or put any wood in it.
Styles had some good spots. Who did he have the clash on? He had Styles clash.
Yes, that was fine.
But
we all knew that he wasn't going to win.
No, I was actually disappointed he took the pin on that.
I was not. Because if the argument is that LA Knight should have taken the pin, then...
No. I think Orton should have taken the pin.
I don't. I think that they should fight at Chamber, one-on-one. I think now's when you do it.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, with Orton, to me, that if with Orton not taking the pin, that means we're going to get a one-on-one match with these two, obviously. Or I should say, obviously. Most likely. I would do that, too. Because then you can split up.
And plus, they're the only two that really had any kind of buzz in that place. Because everybody was like, well, AJ's not winning, and LA Knight's going to beat Logan Paul, so... Randy's cool. Like that was basically basically it.
Yeah,
the whole arena.
Solo, of course we had an appearance from Solo. You forgot about that, about the Roman formula. I guess maybe that didn't come across to me on TV because I felt like Orton and Styles were doing a decent amount through the whole match too. Or I guess that's probably why I didn't realize that Knight was probably outside most of the match.
It felt like it anyway. I mean, he may not have been.
Yeah,
but
did you rewatch that on the broadcast?
I did not rewatch that on the broadcast. Okay. To be fair,
no, that's fine.
So it's one of those things where perhaps my perspective was a little jaded. So.
Well, I mean, that's why it would be interesting to see you compare them because you're going off your live experience. I'm going off of mine because I felt that the pace wasn't bad, but again, when you have the broadcast view, you're only kind of getting what they want to show on the broadcast. Yeah. So with that, I may not realize it didn't maybe quite register. Oh, hey, Knight wasn't really involved, but in the first 3 and last 3 minutes of the match, because obviously you're going to protect him the most. He's like we were just saying, he's not taking the pin for sure. I would have appreciated, I think, more of Orton taking the pin there because I think he could have. I think it benefits him the least or hurts him the least to take the pin. And I mean that's kind of, and maybe I'm being a little. Obviously the Styles Roman isn't going to happen at Mania. But, I mean, I guess that's why I was kind of hoping that, I don't know. I was hoping for...
You wanted to be right, Daniel. That's okay. You're allowed to want to be right. No,
yes.
No.
I think that's part of it, too, where it's like, Styles has done something different, I think, in the ring that's just fun to watch.
Sure.
He kind of had just that insanity moment, too, I feel, in the match, where he kind of just went a little... bonkers like both him and Orton did. I kind but yeah, I get I need to rewatch the match myself. I think.
Yeah.
But because they kind of did carry the match. The pacing seemed okay to me. We've had you just kind of alluded to this too. We've had Roman in a triple threat. We've had him in a fatal 4-way. Let's put him in the chamber for defending his title.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure that it would work for the storyline on SmackDown where Nick Aldis is just not has a vendetta against Roman, but is like standing up to Roman. He's like, "Oh, you think you're going to get away with all this stuff? You're not. Like you are in the chamber."
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, I mean, I just
5 and 6 in that one though.
I mean, I just don't think that. You need it. I don't think that you have enough guys that are ready for it.
No. I'm just saying.
I don't think
I'm not saying to do it. I'm just saying, if this goes how I think this goes for the next Beyond Mania, I won't say any 9 months. Just that trigger you. If I think he retains Beyond Mania, still.
You be careful now.
I know. But what kind of matches do you? Still do.
I don't know. I won't be watching. I won't be watching if that happens, man. I don't give a. He could wrestle Doink the Clown 18 weeks in a row. I don't care. No, I take so no.
What do you think about the? They all did get stacked, not by Roman, but they all did get stacked, and Roman was able to cover it, and obviously Orton kicked out from the bottom.
Good for Randy.
Yeah, and I thought that was
650-pound kick out for Randy right there.
At least. But I thought that was kind of a cool moment because I mean, obviously they were kind of trying to allude back to.
Yeah.
Copeland and
beat him, stack him, pin him. Yeah.
So it's like, I can do it with 3 guys, which you didn't. But yeah, no, I thought it was I thought it was a decent match. I kind of wish it would have been flip flop with Logan and KO, but one more question I did have for you on the Women's Rumble,
okay.
Or at least people wise. So we've had let's kind of segue into the rest. So I can't. The pronunciation of his name just left my mind.
Pronunciation of his name? Akira Tozawa.
No.
Shinsuke Nakamura.
Number 4, Luchador, just came back.
Andrade,
thank you. I have the pronunciation here because for whatever reason I have a very hard time with that name too. Andrade. He's officially with Raw.
Yes.
But we still have. Well, so the next guy that was in the Rumble that was a surprise was Braun Breaker.
Yes.
He's acting like he's a main roster guy now. Do you think he is? I mean, he's... Or do you think he will be here?
So, yes.
The next month?
I think that he will probably be on SmackDown going forward. Now, here's the thing. I need to talk about Braun Breaker for a minute. I'm upset that he was in the Rumble. Not because he did poorly. I think he looked fantastic. I mean, I think
did what we
he
wanted
stole the show.
Yes.
I think in the Rumble, quite frankly. But the problem is that, and then again, this is another one of those scenarios where maybe Tyler wants to be right, but it's not even that I want to be right necessarily. It's just that the way I pitched it, I fell so in love with it. that I wanted it to happen so bad.
I did too.
And like Braun Breaker just coming out after Mania and just ruining Brock Lesnar. Like, I don't know if I said this to you on the podcast, but I'm going to say it again. If it were up to me, I would not have Braun Breaker say one word. Mm-hmm. Not one for 6 full months. Just nothing. Just absolute murder and devastation in his path. And then next year's WrestleMania, you bring Braun back, or you bring Brock back, cost Braun the US title. So that's his first loss, even though he didn't really lose clean, obviously, so it protects him. And still don't have him talk. And then just have him destroy Brock Lesnar so bad at Mania, and then that's the first time he grabs a microphone and just says, "Who's the conqueror now?" And puts it down. Like, I want that so bad. And if you just call him up now with no story and nowhere for him to go, I just feel like it's disappointing based on what I had in my brain. Now, again, it's my brain, and this guy doesn't work usually. So it's... yeah, maybe it's not a good idea, and maybe it's unrealistic, and maybe it's a pipe dream. I agree with all those things. But you can't tell me that that's not pretty awesome. In theory.
Well, I think it is, but at the same time, he can't get lost in the shuffle. If he's main roster now, he can't get lost in the shuffle.
No, he does not have a presentation of getting lost in the shuffle. He's a lot like Karrion Kross. Nobody takes Karrion Kross seriously, not because he doesn't win matches, because he looks like he looks and he doesn't win matches. That's why I know, if he was Akira Tozawa and he didn't win a single match all year, no one would care. No one would be, thinking any less of Akira Tozawa or thinking he's boring. But he walks around claiming devastation for all and just destroying the universe, and then he loses in 8 minutes every night. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
You cannot have both those things. You cannot have him, him call himself a BA and, spear everyone to high heaven and have him lose in 2 minutes every night. You just can't have that happen. Or have him not do anything at all. Or have him just be backstage hi, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Really? You can kill everybody out there, and you're just happy to be here? Like it just wouldn't mesh.
Right.
So I'm worried. Truly, I'm worried.
That's why I'm hoping we see him on Raw, because the roster depth is there for him to have good matches. Put him in with Bronson Reed. Put him in with, I don't want to reach down to Otis level, but put him,
Hey,
have him. I mean,
Otis is a fine level, sir.
He is, but I mean, I don't. If we're talking about perception, we don't want him.
I
understand. How far the card, where in the card do you start putting him with matches with? I think him and Omos actually could. Maybe that's why you bring back Omos in a little bit to where.
Never again.
I know. We've talked about this too, but
no.
but
no. Do you have? I know we're talking about Braun Breaker. Do you have?
Who threw him out?
Do you have any idea how angry I was when Omos's music? I'm like, they wasted a Rumble spot on a man who has not been on television for 9 months. And will not be on television for another 12 months after this. Why?
Well,
you could not find anyone else in the locker room that would have... Now, I know that the theory out there is that Braun Breaker took Brock Lesnar's spot.
Yes.
We might not
ever see Brock Lesnar in the ring again.
I think Omos took Brock Lesnar's spot. And I think they just moved everything up a slot and gave all of Brock Lesnar's dominance to Braun Breaker. Because
if theory is on top of that though is right that Braun took Brock's spot
and eliminated all the exact people that
Brock was but then was supposed to be eliminated. But then Brock was supposed to be eliminated by Dominic, not Brock.
And then Brock was going to beat the ever living pea stain out of Dominic at Elimination Chamber.
Which seems weird to me that you'd have. Okay, let
me see the big beastie boy suplex Dom to death for 45 minutes. Please, I will sit there. I don't even like popcorn. I will sit there and eat a gallon of popcorn in 45 minutes, just just like giddy as a man can get. But no, again, it is unfortunate. For those of you who are not aware of what we're talking about, Brock Lesnar seems to be implied into having some sort of either knowledge of or participated in the sexual harassment and trafficking that Vince McMahon is being accused of in WWE. Now, obviously, none of it's proven, so please do not jump to conclusions.
Right.
Don't go on social media and start bashing Brock Lesnar. We have no idea, and I would like to believe that Brock, underneath everything, is a good human being and would not... Yeah, did he know about it? I'd be pretty surprised if he didn't, if there was something going on, given his position in the company. But at the same time, things are a lot more complicated than just if you see something, say something. And unfortunately...
Yeah.
I wouldn't hold Brock Lesnar accountable for that, because I'm sure... Just like he does with everything, he's probably like, I don't really give a frick what y'all do. I'm just gonna go do my thing, and that's it. Like, you can leave me alone with that stuff. Like, so it's one of those things. So, but anyway, it'd be a shame, truly. Now, is it the worst match to go out on? Brock Lesnar's last match? No, absolutely not. I think it's a great match to go out on. So at least you have that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I still think that there's 2 more stories that Brock should tell before he goes. Yep. Gunther being the main one, obviously. Unfortunately, it's not, and it's sad. I think that they missed out on that opportunity last year and wasted it on Omos. But anyway, we got one of the greatest matches in history with Sheamus, Drew, and Gunther. So I mean, you can't get too mad at that. But at the same time, there is a definite waste, I think, there. But again. Who knows what the real story is?
Right.
None of us know.
Right.
But I think that Braun looked fantastic, and I was kind of hoping that it would just be a one-off.
Poor JD. Like that was probably
Oh
the
my
best.
god!
spirit
I'm
of the whole
surprised.
thing.
I'm
Or
surprised.
JD make-
I am surprised. JD is moving today.
But I mean, is it
yeah.
poor JD McDonough? I don't know. I'm kind of like
In that
conflicted
instance,
there.
yes, he just walked to the ring and then died. Like he did nothing to anyone at that moment,
He
and then
was
he
in
got
Bronze
thrown into
Path.
the ring and immediately eliminated.
He was just in Bronze Path.
Yeah,
at that time.
I don't even know if he was in Braun's path. I think Braun was just pissed off that he got eliminated and just like.
Well, no, he was definitely in the path. He was like getting up and Brown like, yeah! Literally, it's
it was great.
the one thing I love about Brown Breaker is just the speed. It's just like
The fact that he moves so quickly and he hits so hard, but yet it's so controlled. I mean, again, you just look at him and you look at the way he moves, you look at the way he acts. There is no mid card in him. There's guys that you just, if you wanted a mid carder in him, you have to present guys certain ways.
Right.
Like, I know we're gonna talk about a guy that a lot of people don't like, Tyrus, Brodus Clay, the Funkasaurus, right? You had to put him in basically a monkey suit and have him dance like a clown for anyone to not think he's a monster.
yeah.
Because if you put him any other way, he's a monster. Look at him. He's like 6'9", he's got crazy hair, he's covered in tattoos. Like, you can't just have that guy be a normal dude walking around.
No.
Braun's the same way. Obviously, he's not covered in tattoos. He's not, 6'8",
But the same build.
500.
Yeah, I understand.
But he just has that presence about him. Like, it's like the same thing. Like, can you imagine young Brock Lesnar walking into WWE and drinking soda during a backstage 4th of July party and getting cake thrown in his face and going, "Oh man, who threw that?" No! Look at him. Like, look at him. He's a monster. And he's only a monster. That's all he is.
Yep.
And that's not a bad thing. You need guys like that. So I think that Braun is a guy that, it scares me. Now, if you're going to be on SmackDown, which I think makes the most sense, at least like just depth-wise, and I think he has less competition to shine through there.
Right.
I think if you're not doing anything with AJ, throw him in there with AJ for 20 minutes at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Why not? Just have him beat a veteran of the business on the biggest stage. They did it with Fandango. Why can't they do it with Braun Breaker?
Right.
No offense to Fandango, but
No.
I mean, come on, like.
I'm sure Chris Jericho was like, what?
No, yeah, he was. But anyway, yeah. So what else? What else you got?
Well, I don't. Well, we kind of jumped into the men's rumble. Do you have any? I guess. Do you have any thoughts
I have a lot of thoughts, man.
of the U.S. title match?
Yeah.
My biggest takeaway was, as much as I was ready for Logan Paul to get beaten to a pulp, which he kind of did,
He did. Yeah.
he took some massive bumps and sold very well.
He's getting a lot better for sure. The time in the Performance Center is paying off for sure.
Yeah.
He's a quick learner.
So, props to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Props to him. I thought that was honestly the best part of the match. It was just seeing him sell the damage that KO was doing, because KO is a bad dude when he wants to be a bad dude. During intros, Kevin Owens sitting on the turnbuckle just staring daggers at him. Mm-hmm. Just daggers. I'm like, I got chills. But exactly that. That's the reaction that I took from it. I was like, oh snap, this is gonna be brutal, and it was. Mm-hmm. Even before the brass knuckles, they did a spot where one of his cronies came out, and the ref caught it, which I thought was cool.
I thought it made sense. Yeah.
I thought it was a nice touch, but I'm like, well, that's weird, because we know he's gonna get the brass knuckle somehow. And then A-Town Down comes down.
And I said they'd interfere.
You did.
Guys, I'm batting 500 on this stuff, which for wrestling predictions is pretty damn good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That
is Hall of Fame.
200 is good.
Yeah.
No, seriously, no. I
will be batting 0
like,
from now
man,
on.
he was right on that. Of all things that he was right on that one.
Hey, man. I don't know what to tell you.
But I mean, I thought that was great. I thought that was a cool moment. One of the things I love watching from Kevin Owens too is the cannonballs across the ring.
Sure.
Where he just sets up and then boom. He had like 2 or 3 of them.
I also love the little mini story that they're telling, which is nobody can superplex Kevin Owens. That's like a fun little like aspect to his character that I never put together.
Like, I can do it, and then all of a sudden Kevin's like, nope.
Yeah, like, no, you can't. Like, nobody superplexes Kevin Owens. Oh, yeah. Like, and that move is unique. He's the only the only guy that does it. So I think, and I was like, and as soon as, I don't remember who said it. Was it Corey Graves that said it? Like, you don't superplex Kevin Owens. It was like one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, he does always reverse a superplex, and
I've
never caught it. But like when they said it, I was like, oh yeah, that's true. Like all the years I've watched him, I never noticed that. Yeah. He very rarely takes a superplex. He always counters it. So like very interesting. But yeah, no. So my thoughts on the match. I thought it was definitely better than the fans gave it credit for in the crowd. I was very disappointed. Again, I've said it. I was very disappointed in the crowd. Even my wife, who, I mean, has never been in a stadium like that, in an environment like that for wrestling. And she was like, man, nobody cares about this match. And I'm like, yeah, isn't it freaking depressing? Like, it's horrible.
Especially since there's only 2 true matches on the
card. Yeah, like that's so like upsetting. Like, I don't understand.
Which I hope we don't see again in a gimmick PLE like this. Like, Chamber better not have a chamber, and only 2 matches between.
Oh, no.
You better have 3.
I hope not. Chambers don't last an hour, so it shouldn't.
You need that cooldown.
Yeah, and so for me, I think that the match was fine. I think Logan gets better every time he wrestles, so that impresses me. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just so darn good in there, and
you don't want him to be
freaking frustrating, yeah. But
that's perfectly
for me. I think it ended. I think live. I think the fans hated it a lot more than like people watching at home hated it. So my guess is commentary and the angles that they chose did a really good job of selling that story. Mm-hmm. But like for all of us, we were all like, oh god, oh yeah, disqualification, yeah, god, ding ding ding, yeah, sure, blah. Like we were all like ticked off about it because it was like, really, there's 4 matches tonight. And you're telling me that one of them's ending in a DQ on a big 5 pay-per-view. Like, I could tell that was the feeling in the arena. To be honest with you. Now, it could have just been my section, or it could have just been, the way that we were all feeling. I don't know, but that's kind of how I felt like everybody reacted. And the funny part was, so there was a woman that was, across the stairway from me. I think I mentioned I had an aisle seat, so like right over there. Her husband was sitting in basically the kind of seat that I was, and then the wife was sitting right next to. It could have been not wife, I guess, but woman with the man. And they were a Hispanic couple, and so they were in love with all of the Hispanic wrestlers, which I think is great. It's a different awesome. But for some crazy reason, I mean, this woman hated Logan Paul. And I don't mean
you either love or hate.
I don't mean hated Logan Paul like we hate Logan Paul but respect him. I'm talking, she called him the P word about 70 times, stood up for most of the match, screaming at Kevin Owens, why are you not murdering his family? Like, just the word. I'm like, yo, this woman is aggressive. Like, it was like, she was so mad at Logan Paul, I assumed for breathing? I mean, I don't know what else. I don't know what. Maybe she was one of the people that he scammed in his little, like, primes. I don't know. Like, but she hated Logan Paul. To where she was like, drag him out of the ring and punch him in the face. And like, I know that sounds like, oh, well, people do that in wrestling all the time. Yeah, but I think she meant it. I think like she wanted to see like everybody cheer because Kevin Owens was doing well. And then the cheering slowly devolves into uncomfortable staring because he doesn't have a face anymore. And Kevin just keeps going and going and going until his face is like impressed. Like, I think that's what she wanted. I mean, and she wanted, like, just pure, wow, I want this man to die. Yikes. And I was like, yeah. Like, that was the most entertaining part of the match for me. Like, that's sad, because I love Kevin Owens, and Logan Paul did great, and they both did great, but I'm just sitting there listening to this woman, like, I don't know if I love her or if I'm afraid of her right now. Like, can you imagine being married to her? Like, can you imagine, like, if she hated your mother? Like, what would she do? Like, every day would be like, so, have you killed your mother yet? No? Okay. When are we going over there next? No reason. Like, that would be the vibe that I would get from this woman. Yeah. Oh, goodness. I hope she got home safe and she's doing well, by the way, because she gave me some fun entertainment there.
I was a little disappointed in the ending. I would have rather had Paul win clean or Paul win with the brass knuckles than the DQ. Because I don't know, part of me was like, did Kevin just forget to hide him or not care that he couldn't hide, that he wasn't hiding him?
I think he just didn't think about it.
Because they built that match so well towards like maybe Kevin Owens has a shot, and then he actually was like, oh snap.
Yeah, like he's gonna win.
They just took the brass knuckles away from Paul. Maybe he does have a shot, even with this interference from Waller and what's his face?
Theory.
Thank you. Yeah, he's so forgettable.
He sure is, folks. He sure is. I literally booked him in my Rumble to come in and immediately take a Rainmaker. Just immediately, I'm gonna pop. Who gives a frick?
Yeah. So I think we're both kind of the same page there. A lot of entertaining spots, but just the finish was weird. The DQ was not great. Especially since they built it up so well to Kevin Owens might actually have a good shot, which I think we both figured he did, but I think in the back of our minds we know they're not gonna put him over. But then they did the match, and it's like, but you are telling us that he can't go over right here right now. So let's move to the men's rumble.
Good. I have a lot of thoughts.
Yes, I'm sure you have. I just had a thought that escaped me. I'll do the first question for men's rumble.
Okay.
Are you disappointed that we didn't get Okada?
I mean, a little bit, sure.
Yeah.
But just out of fandom, but I mean, no, I didn't expect it. His contract, I don't think is still up. I think it's up tomorrow.
Gotcha.
In New Japan. So, I mean, I didn't expect it. I truly didn't expect it.
It sounds like he's pretty much all but AEW.
Yeah, and that will be disappointing because then they will have Ospreay and Okada, and it's like, okay, great, we got CM Punk who blew out his tricep 2 minutes into his career, and they have the two like youngest, hottest, amazing in-ring workers on the planet. And we didn't win that go round.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. No, I'm not. I mean, obviously, slightly because, goodness, that would have been amazing.
Right.
But at the same time, there's no way.
We'll get Andrade back. I don't know.
Hey, Andrade's great.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with Andrade.
And then I want to touch on the CM Punk thing too. The thought in my head right now is, I actually got to back up to the Raw before I Rumble. And talk about the Raw after Rumble all at the same time here. So, obviously, Punk comes out, says, "Hey, I'm gonna be out for a while." Sounds like 4 to 6 months easily. Yeah. Which is disappointing because I was like, I thought him and Cody did an amazing finish by themselves like that. Some people
especially considering Punk tore his tricep.
Yeah, and looking like almost want to watch that back, and with that thought in my mind, I was like, how? What? But to me, it's like, okay, but then so this past Monday, you have Drew come out and basically like, you're going away? Good. Ha ha. Kind of like that one where you're describing. It's like, I'm at an injured insult. I'm beating you down on your way out the door for the next 6 months. So I take that, what they did with him, and because we were getting Punk versus someone, 90% Raw shirts, Rollins, Punk Rollins, at Mania, for the title. So I go back to the Raw before Rumble, and it's like, why don't you do the same thing with Rollins and have Priest come out and cash in on Rollins and ship off Rollins for the next 6 months?
Because...
And I get it because, I mean, obviously injury is different. Rollins should be able to rehab from it and still play and still have a match in Mania. But I'm just like, to me, that would have been a great opportunity for Priest to cash in, to put that heat on Punk. To put that heat on Priest. You obviously don't know that Punk's going to hurt himself. And you could still work your way back to Rollins, where Rollins gets the title back or something, and right before Mania or whatever. But,
yeah.
To me, it's like, if they went that far with Drew coming out for Punk, they could have done the same thing, to me, with Priest and Rollins. And I was kind of hoping they would do that when it was announced that Rollins was was going to be rehabbing that injury. Before he actually said, "Hey, I'm still holding on to this title," which is to me also, which is weird too. It's like I feel like 9 times out of 10, when something like an injury like that, even though it's 2 or 3 months of rehab for him, it's like usually they make the guy drop the title anyway.
Yeah. And
you have a part-timer in Roman with the other main title. Paul is off with the other title, part-time essentially. So you're not gonna have a third men's title up here now. Like to me, that'd have been especially if they decided to go that route with Punk. And again, Punk's gone for longer, but it's just like to me, it's like that'd have been the perfect opportunity for having Priest come out and cash in.
Okay, so here's my counter to that.
Okay.
My honest opinion, it's going to mean a lot less when Gunther's holding 2 belts if he beats Priest for it.
Okay.
Anybody catch that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I think that the way you have to pivot now.
But do you say that because of Gunther holding 2 titles, do you say that, would you have said that if Punk wasn't hurt right now?
Oh, absolutely not, because Gunther would be facing Brock Lesnar. But the issue is Brock Lesnar now might be done, as we mentioned before.
Right.
And so then you're in a spot where Gunther just doesn't have a quality opponent, and that sucks for Gunther. But it's not Gunther's fault, and Gunther could just beat whoever at WrestleMania and carry on as Intercontinental Champion, and all would be right with the world, and that's fine. But considering Lesnar's basically done, and considering now Seth Rollins doesn't have an opponent, just do it. Just do Hulk and Ultimate Warrior again. Seth Rollins versus Gunther at WrestleMania, winner take all. Gunther wins. He holds both belts and just is a tyrant. Like, go right ahead. Like, I am fully on board with that because to me now that is the best option. I don't think you do that match if Punk is still healthy. I don't think you do that match if Punk tears his tricep and Brock Lesnar enters the Rumble. But now that you have no Lesnar, now that you have no Punk, I'm looking around. But you do have Rollins.
Not until Mania.
No, but that's fine. You don't need Rollins you don't need Rollins in Mania. You need Cody to wait to say anything, and then he picks Roman, like he's gonna pick Roman. And then Rollins goes, well, god dang it, what the hell am I gonna do?
Right.
And then Gunther just shows up and says, did you forget about me?
Yeah.
And everybody goes, oh no. Like, this is bad. And then there's your... That's an easy story to tell.
Yeah, I know. I just...
Look, I don't know what you've got against Gunther, but you've been killing me for like 6 weeks where you're just like, no to Gunther for anything.
I want Braun to be Gunther.
I've
gone through this.
I want Braun to be Gunther on the other show.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, I don't want this match if Punk and Lesnar are in the picture. I want Gunther to destroy Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and then he continues on as Intercontinental Champion, and then you do Ilya Dragunov versus Gunther at Bash at Berlin.
Right.
That's what I want. But given the lay of the land, and the fact that Brock Lesnar might be done forever, which is, again, the worst. I mean, just... You're talking about a man that's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. You just don't want his career to end like that. I mean, that just sucks. Sure. But now that he's not there, now that Punk's not there, this isn't, you're going to miss Money in the Bank, or you're going to miss Backlash. You're going to miss WrestleMania, which means you need a WrestleMania-worthy match. Because otherwise, you're going to get Cody Rhodes finishing the story, Bayley and Io Sky having a blood feud, Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch, and Damian Priest versus The Miz. Like, it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb in a bad way. You know what I'm saying, though. Like it's gotta be a WrestleMania-worthy match. What's more WrestleMania-worthy than Intercontinental Champion versus World Champion, winner takes all, and Gunther is the monster that conquers everything, and everybody goes, oh my god, like, that's your WrestleMania match. Now, like, again, I don't want that match if the other guys are there. But now, what are you going to do with?
To me, that's too reactive. To me, it's like you don't put yourself in that position.
Well, let me ask you a question. Does Gunther ever have to lose his Intercontinental Championship?
Depends.
Does Damian Priest still have his Money in the Bank contract?
Yes.
Then you have an out.
But I'm saying
you have an easy out.
They should have taken that out last Monday. They should have taken that out last Monday. And I'm saying, again, because you have Drew beating up Punk, not for no reason, but in a sense for no reason. We know he's out for 6 months. Why is Drew adding insult to injury, but he didn't have Priest add insult to injury to Rollins the week before?
I mean, yeah, okay. If you look at it from that perspective, fair.
Brock Lesnar aside.
Yes, no, for sure. So I think...
to me, that's you could still get that picture in there.
Well, I mean, to be fair,
I
think, quite frankly, that WWE's glad they didn't have Damian do it, because I think the plan, and this is just the craziest plan, I cannot believe that WWE, because I know it's going to happen, guys, you just know it, the Awesome Truth are going to take the titles off of Judgment Day at WrestleMania. I know it. I know they are. And that is crazy. If you had told me that it's not going to be DIY, it's not going to be the Creed brothers, it's not going to be Pretty Deadly, Street Profits, it's not going to be any of the tag teams, of the awesome tag teams that you see. It's going to be the Awesome Truth taking the titles off Judgment Day. I'd be like, how much ayahuasca did you smoke before you talked to me? Like, that's what I would have said to you.
Yeah.
First of all, everybody hates The Miz. Second of all, R-Truth hasn't been on TV for a year. What are they just going to suddenly, like, The Miz is going to be like, I'm a bad guy, I need a partner. What's up? And then everybody's going to go, yay! And then,
but Miz,
how's that going to work?
The bad guy right now.
No, he doesn't, but they made it, and they're making it work, and it makes a lot of sense, and I saw it on Monday. Like, as soon as Ciampa took that pin, I was like, it's gonna be Awesome Truth at Mania, isn't it? That's crazy. Like, I was like, that's nuts.
The fact that that's a possibility is wild.
Oh no, that isn't. I know it's nuts, and it's nuts in a good way. But that's why you love WWE. Yes. But at this again, I think that matches have to be WrestleMania worthy. If you have Priest either cash in right after the main event of WrestleMania, which I think honestly was going to be the plan, and now I have no idea because you can't you cannot do that to Gunther. No, you can't do that to Gunther. You can't.
If you're putting it on Gunther, no.
Now if you do it to Drew, that could make sense. But at this point, Drew's faced Seth like 5 times in the last 4 months. I don't want to see that again. So it's they're in a difficult spot. God bless you.
We have to talk about the rest of the Rumble here too.
I know,
but we'll get there because we're eventually gonna hit this anyway. Just because I'm going, I'll let go of this horse here in a minute. But just because you put the title on Priest with the cash in when Rollins was hurt last Monday, pre-Rumble, pre-No Brock, pre-Punk injury. To me, you can do a miraculous return of Seth Rollins in an Elimination Chamber. And he wins it at Chamber, and you have Mania, and you can still do whatever you want to do with Rollins.
But then you just destroyed Damian Priest's career.
Did you?
Because you cashed in on a guy with one leg. The biggest cowardly move. Like, and I know how he would do it. He wouldn't. No. Because Damian. Okay, there's a difference between the heel types. There's the cowardly type of heels, and Damian Priest is not that kind.
But you could say that about Drew then, right now.
Drew's not a coward, and so there's
different. He doesn't look like one, but
Dominic would be a guy that would do it like that.
But he did it to Punk. Drew did it to Punk, so it's like to me, it's like he's still.
But Drew didn't. Drew wasn't taking anything outside of just a vindictive, like psychotic.
Okay. That's your shit.
But him just walking up and being like, can you imagine Damian Priest just slowly walking down with a referee, getting right up to Seth Rollins' face with a crutch, and just going, just hands him the Money in the Bank contract, and basically just flicks him off with his eyes and says, "Yeah, I'm that desperate." Like, because that's what that would look like. You'd be like, you seriously are so much of a coward that you can't even cash it in on a... It's not even like he just had a match. This man is legitimately... He has no leg. And you are... Really. Like, no one would take him seriously. And then if he were to immediately lose it, you would be confirming that he's not a world champion. And he would never shake that stigma. To me. That's why I thought cashing in right after the main event of WrestleMania, after Punk wins the belt, is the only way to do it. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, that's not an option.
Right.
And I think, unless they find something else, unless, good God, they actually do Cody versus Seth, which I'm pretty sure I would stop watching wrestling for the rest of my life. Oh my God, Cody finished his story! No, he didn't! But
they wouldn't claim that he's finishing his story without the match.
Well, it would be a stupid match. But I think, again, the only thing that makes sense right now is Gunther. It's the only story that they have going on outside of Drew. So I'm assuming that it's Gunther. If you spend 2 years building up Gunther as an unstoppable machine, no one's pinned him, no one's beat him, no one's done anything, he's just a Terminator, he wins every time. Your only option at that moment, if it's the main event of WrestleMania Night 1, Gunther just became the second man to hold both belts at the same time. Who the hell's going to stop him? Damian Priest cashes in, tries to take both belts. The only option you have is Damian Priest to lose. Because if that's how you have Gunther have his first loss in 5 years, or not 5 years, but like 2 years,
and I agree
then
with
that's
that.
The worst. Like, that is such a freaking that would be so awful. Because what would you have to what? Well, I'm gonna actually fight you one-on-one. Oh, now suddenly you can lose because you can't have Damian Priest immediately lose the belts after. Oh, so now suddenly Gunther can lose. Weird. Like, it just wouldn't make any sense. So, like, what do? I think you have to have Damian just keep holding the briefcase.
Yeah.
Until Kingdom Come. Like, until April. Or not until April, until, like, July. Like, just another 6 months of hold the briefcase and then cash it in at the last minute. Like, I know, I don't want it either, but, I mean, what else? To me, unless you're going to pull an Austin Theory and just say that it was a crutch around his neck and it was holding him back, then I think you're kind of screwed. Yeah. Or I just thought of this. I just thought of this.
I just had an idea too.
You guys let me know. NXT.
For Priest?
He goes down to NXT, cashes in on the NXT champion, becomes the NXT champion after he splits from Judgment Day, because I would presume that they're going to do some kind of Judgment Day split soon. And Damian is, a babyface version of Damian Priest. He holds that title proud, and he's the guy that a lot of the young guys get to go up against, a guy that was proven in NXT, a guy that's been proven on the main roster. He's down there for a little while, gets him in a new light in front of new fans, and don't do it garbagely like they did with Charlotte. Have it actually be, he's going to wrestle every week. He's going to put the title on the line most weeks. Yeah, guys are going to fight for it.
Yeah.
Go nuts with it. I think that would be a lovely story to tell. Now, are they going to do that? No. Should they do that? Probably not. But now I think you're really... Damian Priest is absolutely screwed.
Yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, with everything that's happened in the last week and a half in the wrestling world, with Rollins hurt, we won't see him till Mania. We probably won't see Brock in the ring for a long time, if ever again. Punk is now out for the next 6 months. Yeah, Priest is kind of screwed at this point, unless they somehow get the title out of Drew without hurting Rollins, and then, yeah.
Yeah. And I think
because I wholeheartedly agree that Gunther, and I like that option of Gunther holding both titles, because we haven't seen that in a long time. Mm-hmm. We've seen it on the women's side with Becky, and that's kind of what made her the legend that she was. So that could further Gunther's legend.
Yep.
Even more.
Yeah. And I think that the only other thing that I can think that's not going to completely screw over Damian Priest, is Seth does not face Gunther at WrestleMania. Whoever Seth faces, Seth retains. A couple months later, CM Punk comes back, challenges Seth Rollins. They have a pay-per-view match. That's when Seth loses the title, and then Priest cashes in.
Yeah.
Because it just makes sense for Punk. It makes sense for Rollins to lose the title to Punk. And it makes sense for Priest to cash in on Punk, and it wouldn't kill Priest. Now, the problem is you still have to find a WrestleMania-worthy opponent that can lose and not have it destroy them. So, what do you do in that moment? Because you know what? Chad Gable. Give me Chad Gable. They had a match on Monday Night Raw like 3 months ago, and nobody in the crowd gave a fart about that match. And it was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
They were so crisp. They timed everything perfectly. And I'm like, is nobody watching the brilliance that's happening right now? Everybody was just on their phones, just, I hate everything. Go away. Like, it's
Chad Gable's
awful.
underrated. Rest of the Rumble, which I wish we would have gotten Chad Gable in, by the way.
Yeah, well, hey.
But that,
you watched my booking. Chad Gable was in there. He did a good job. I was just saying.
And to me, that's one of my biggest takeaways, I think, from the Rumble is that the men's roster is so deep. Is we didn't get Gable. We got Karrion and Bobby Lashley, but we didn't get the rest of their factions. We got Carlitos and Santos, and that's a hit or miss for a lot of people right now. I get that, but we didn't get the rest of their factions. I think we're a couple more years away from the 40th Rumble, but at least when we get that 40th Rumble, they better make the men's Rumble 40 men. They have the depth to do it. But anyway, that was kind of, I think, kind of a cool little thought that I had, and it was like...
I mean, you definitely could.
Even, they didn't have any legends, again, like we've talked about.
The problem is, I think if you have to do that with the men's, you got to do it with the women's too.
Yeah.
And that I mean, yes, they had enough depth and everything to fill 30, but with 40, it's going to be a lot more difficult.
In 3 years, that could be different. If I did my math correct, I think they kept saying 37th Rumble.
So 88 was the first Rumble, and this was 24. Yeah. So I believe that would be 37.
Yeah.
Yes.
3 years, you might have the women's. I think you got to do, if you do it for one, you got to do it for the other. But we talked about Jay coming out. That was electric. That was probably one of the biggest highlights, if not the highlight, of the PLE. Just that crowd. Oh man, the way the lights.
Oh yeah, they loved it.
That was amazing. I love that. And then Jimmy comes out right after. I'm like, oh yes, this is perfect.
Yeah. So
sorry, I have to say this. So make sure I get this in.
Yeah.
When I saw those two, the immediate thought that I had wasn't. It was the second thought I had of, wow, this would be a great WrestleMania match. My first thought was, I think Jimmy's going to eventually leave the Bloodline and team up with Jay again. He's going to get tired of this because he so much wants to have the fun his brother is having. He wants to be in the spotlight of the Bloodline, but I think he's going to eventually realize Solo is the guy for Roman, not me anymore. And he's going to resent that. And I don't know how he'll leave. Who knows? But I think eventually he's going to look at that situation, look how much his brother's doing on Raw, and be like, dang it, I miss rolling with my brother. I think he's eventually going to...
I do too.
Wisen up and go. And maybe that even, maybe that's a post-title reign feud we get to of the brothers versus Solo and Roman one more time. We've had that, of course, but I think or maybe that's, I don't know. You could get to that, I think, a myriad of ways. But that was my first thought when I saw those two together in the ring. I think Jimmy was just like, it's good to see you again. Man, I miss you, but I hate you at the moment still because you're here. I'm not.
I mean, yeah, could have been. For those of you who watched my Royal Rumble booking, I booked it to have Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn start the Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought it would be electric, I thought it'd be fun, and I thought that it was, I thought that it would just be like a fun little friendly kind of go at it to start. And I truly believed that there was no possible way that anybody could start a Rumble better than those two guys specifically. And then Jay's music hit, and I went, ooh, interesting. Jay Uso maybe going to be an Iron Man character in this Rumble? That'd be fun. That's what I'm thinking. Yep. And I mentioned the guy that was in front of me. Yeah, he did. I mentioned the guy that was sitting in front of me. And he turned around to me and he said, oh, man, give me Jimmy at number 2.
No way.
He did. I'll give him full board credit. He called it. And I went, oh, man. And then it dawned on me, oh, that is such a better way to start the Rumble than... Listen, and there's no offense to Cody or Sammy. Obviously, I love both of them. But like the buzz that would create, and then sure enough, I was like, wow. Like, they're giving it to us. And Jay's face in the ring of confusion and sadness and pain and anger, he just was like you didn't know what he felt, and then and Jimmy's just pure like, nah, I hate you. Yeah. Like I don't care about you anymore, and it was so good. Yeah. And their theme songs are great, obviously. Yeah. So they were always great as a team, obviously, and seeing them split and kind of do their different personalities now has been a lot of fun. But
yes, it has.
Yeah, that was that was definitely my first thought, which was, man, that is such a better way to start I wish I'd have thought of that. Because it was so good. But the problem is the way I booked my Rumble, I would have needed them both to go all the way, and it would have been awkward to have them both go all the way with all the other things that were happening in there. But it is what it is.
I don't remember who eliminated Jimmy.
I don't remember either. I
don't think it was Brian. It was early.
Yeah, it was pretty early. It might have been Omos. It might have been Karrion Kross. It might have been Andrade. I think he went out at like 12 or 13. He didn't last super long. Yeah. But yeah, no. So just a few things that stood out to me with the men's Rumble. I did think it was a wee bit boring. And it is what it is. It's none of the guys' fault. I think there were certainly some better spots than the women's Rumble. By the way, we didn't even talk about Kairi Sane doing whatever the hell she did with the Spider-Man thing on the apron. I don't know if you know, but she was like kind of like grasping on like this.
Oh yeah.
And then she eventually fell down. I was so confused. I was sitting there like, I feel like she was supposed to do something and she couldn't do it. Or I feel like she wasn't supposed to get eliminated at all right there and tried to save the moment by doing that whole thing, but I thought her feet had already touched the ground.
Interesting.
And then she eventually fell, and I was like, did that happen on purpose? And then Asuka got thrown out immediately, and I was like, oh, maybe it was on purpose. Like, maybe they meant to do that. So I don't know what you guys think, but I eventually, when I saw Asuka get eliminated, I did think that it was on purpose. I don't know what they were going for necessarily, but they tried something new. Sure, why not?
Or unless it was supposed to be the other way around.
Yeah,
and Sako was supposed to help her or something.
Yeah, you just never know. But I thought that there were some good spots in the men's match to get back to the point, and I'm sad that you fell asleep. Literally right before Cody came out too. You said you fell asleep like at 15.
Well, I think it was 13 or 14, but to the point of when I rewatched it in full the next day, I was like, man, I would just miss Cody.
Yeah,
I was like,
you did. But it was a good Rumble. Not the best, definitely not the worst. I mean, good grief.
Yeah.
10-year anniversary of the worst Rumble in history in 2014. Just horrific. And not just because Daniel Bryan did not win. So many reasons. But anyway, I thought that a little underwhelming in terms of people who were out there. There were a lot of guys, not a lot of guys. There were a few guys in my Rumble booking that were not in there. Nobody from Alpha Academy was in the Rumble. I had Otis and Gable in there. I did read somewhere that Akira Tozawa had entered into the Rumble. when I saw on a website that it said, here are the official people that have declared for the Rumble. Akira Tozawa's name was on there. He was not in the Rumble. Huh. And so, can you imagine my fright at number 30?
You thought it was going to be Akira?
I thought it was going to be Akira Tozawa for a minute. I was like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, when is Akira Tozawa coming out in this thing? Because I swear, like, I guess there's a very tiny percentage that I am wrong, and I somehow misread that. But I am about 99.9999999% certain that I have a vivid memory of being on the couch in my living room right behind that wall and going through my phone, seeing who had been announced for the Rumble to see how many spots there were left open when I was planning for the Rumble and, doing my records, and Akira Tozawa's name was on there, and I physically remember going, Akira Tozawa's declared for the Rumble? When the hell did that happen? And then my second thought was, well, I guess that means that the rest of Alpha Academy's in the Rumble too.
Yeah.
So I guess that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, and then none of them were in it. But again, I read that Akira Tozawa, none of the other members of Alpha Academy, but Akira Tozawa was in the Rumble. I read this. And again, pretty much for certain in my brain. So I'm fighting a migraine. I'm struggling through this pay-per-view. And then I realize that it's number 30, and I go, okay. So you're telling me that there were rumors that The Rock was going to be here. And there were rumors that Brock Lesnar was going to be here. And Kazuchika Okada was going to be here. And you, at number 30, are going to give me Akira Tozawa.
Well, at least they gave you Sami.
They gave me Sami Zayn, so I was happy that it wasn't Akira Tozawa. However, I was like...
letdown.
I was like... And then when Sami came in, I was like, oh, it's not a kid. What the hell happened to Akira Tozawa? Like, I was so confused. I'm very interested to see if I can find that article.
Yeah.
But anyway... that was that was frightening, folks. Like,
to
trust
that point, we didn't have anybody from DIY.
Nope.
Didn't anybody from Creed Brothers.
Nope.
Didn't everybody from Alpha Academy.
Nope. None of the tag teams. It felt like
none of the Raw tag teams.
None of the Raw tag teams.
Oh yeah, didn't have Pretty Deadly.
Didn't have Pretty Deadly.
Brutes.
No Street Profits. Neither of the Brutes.
Yeah. Well,
nobody from the LWO. The only person was Santos Escobar, but I don't know if that really counts.
Santos, I would say he's the
leader of the LWO, or
whatever. Leader of the Phantasma faction now.
Yeah.
Carlito, I think, is pseudo leader of
that.
The LWO.
Also was very disappointing. Carlito at 10, because we were all hoping it was Shawn Spears. The perfect 10. At number 10.
Yeah. He
left AEW a couple months ago. So we were all like, come on. Do you know what cool is? Oh. Like, that was a mild letdown, because when Ty Dillinger, who was Shawn Spears' old character name back in the day, had that perfect 10 gimmick, and then number 10 in the Rumble rolled around, and I'm watching that year, I'm like, wouldn't it be awesome if it was Ty Dillinger? And then it was, and I was like, ah! Like, we were all so excited, and just great. We thought it was going to happen again, and it did not. So that was mildly disappointing. Not Carlito's fault, by the way. We don't hold this against Carlito, folks, but that was mildly disappointing.
I would say, like, the Street Profits was pseudo represented because of their association with Lashley. LWO is loosely
okay. So then the AOP was loosely represented because of the Final Testament and Karrion Kross. I mean, sure, but again, not a lot of tag teams, which I think is fine.
Yes,
I did not put a lot of tag teams in my Rumble booking. The only tag teams that I can remember putting in there were Alpha Academy, but they were not in the ring at the same time. Otis came out at 6 and got eliminated reasonably early by Gunther. And, like, literally, Gunther came in at 7, Otis came in at 6, and Otis was eliminated by Gunther, like, immediately. So, and then Chad Gable came in at, like, 25 or something.
Right. But technically, the only tag team that was in there was Judgment Day, but there's such a...
I didn't even have Judgment. I only had Finn Balor and... Well, I had Finn Balor and Dominic in there. Yeah. But were they in there together?
Finn and Dominic might have been Dominic and in your booking or
In my booking, I'm trying to think. Yeah. No, but no, I know that all of the Judgment Day were in the Rumble at some point during the real Rumble, but
right.
So
that was really
but in mine, I know I had Dom and I know I had Finn in there.
Yeah.
I just don't remember if I had Dom and Finn in there at the same time. If there was a tag team in there, the only tag team that I had in there at the same time was Jimmy and Solo. Those are the only two guys I had in there at once.
Right.
All the other teams, A-Town Down Under, split them up, didn't see each other.
Yep.
Judgment Day, split them up, about 95% certain they didn't see each other, and I didn't have Damian Priest in there either. Like, I did not want to have a ton of tag teams. I didn't have DIY, I didn't have Creed Brothers, I didn't have Pretty Deadly, I didn't have any of those guys in there.
Yep.
I did have Butch. I didn't have Tyler Bate, though, but that's because I wanted Rich Holland to come back and attack Pete Dunne, and then throw him back in the ring, and then have somebody eliminate him and start that feud. But whatever.
Speaking of Judgment Day, Dominic Mysterio. I'm gonna start with a spot of Braun Breaker taking out Omos, but then Dominic Mysterio throwing Braun Breaker over the top rope. To me, is one of the most stupid spots of the whole Rumble.
Well, it makes it even more stupid when you realize that it was supposed to be Brock Lesnar.
Brock stuff aside, it doesn't matter who it's supposed to be. That's even more stupid then.
I don't know. I'm saying it's even more stupid if it was Brock.
Yeah,
because can you imagine Brock turning around and seeing that stupid kid just
right? And that's why JD got the punishment he did because Brock was that pissed that he just got thrown out by Dominic Mysterio. But why? Why would you do that?
So I don't know. That's the short answer.
That's fine.
But honestly, I didn't mind that he threw out Braun, because it was kind of a sneak attack. Braun, we all knew Braun wasn't going to win the Rumble anyway.
Yeah, I know.
And we don't even know if they're going to be
more spears. Okay.
Well, yes, of course, but I think it's one of those things. You really fall in love with Braun Breaker. That's a good thing. No, as you should. He's great, but for me, I didn't hate it that much. Obviously, you'd like to see Braun Breaker get eliminated by like Gunther or something.
Yeah, of course.
And form a feud and do all that stuff. But whatever. Like, especially when you realize that he was in there, just because Brock was supposed to be in there and he needed somebody to fill that like kind of big guy role and take a bunch of punishment and eliminate a bunch of guys. Like, I thought he did great. I thought he actually honestly was the best part of the Rumble for me, outside of the end.
We're getting there. And I'm trying to remember. I think Braun and Australian dude, big dude,
Bronson Reed.
Thank you. I think they had a confrontation in the Rumble.
A little one, yeah. It wasn't. It was very brief, but Braun took it. Braun took it to him. So
yeah, but I mean that's just to me that's like the first match that's the first little feud I think for Braun, because I mean you're not Reed's a good player. He's been in the IC title picture a little bit. It's like
he lost clean on Monday to Jey Uso, which was interesting. I wonder if they're doing. I wonder if they're doing Jey versus Gunther at Elimination Chamber, and Jimmy will cost his brother. I mean, I think that's a good. Really good, but the problem is what the hell do you do with Bronson Reed? He's Australian. He should definitely be doing something, right?
Put him in a triple threat together.
I guess that's fair. But anyway,
we'll definitely do a pod. I think a couple weeks before that, to redo our chamber cards.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't really care for that. I'm glad Punk is great to see there. I'm glad he was at number 30. A part of me was afraid that he was going to be 30 and do the whole what Cody Rhodes did last year.
Yeah.
I also wondered if I already asked this, but I don't think I did. I can't help but wonder if Punk hadn't torn his triceps, would Punk have actually won the Rumble?
No.
You think it was really
no, and here's why I say that. So I thought about the same exact thing. So let's just say that CM Punk was supposed to win the Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Let's just say that.
Yeah.
It appears that he tore his tricep in the spot where there were 6 dudes left. It was Punk, it was Rhodes, it was Zayn, it was Priest, it was McIntyre, and it was... Who was the 6th guy? Crud.
No, him and all those guys.
Oh, Punk, right, yeah. I guess
That's okay.
I didn't count Punk.
That's okay.
So it was those 6 guys, which meant that you had Damian Priest, Gunther, and Drew McIntyre. All big, powerful men, all on Raw, all who would make some kind of sense to face Seth Rollins. If Punk goes down to the referee and says, I just blew out my arm, I can't win this match because I know what tearing my tricep feels like, and this is what it is, because he has torn it before.
Yep. Same one, I believe.
Same one.
Yeah.
And we need to call an audible, I can't win the Rumble. Why would it have been Cody winning the Rumble? Because if you're setting up the chamber match for Cody Rhodes to be where he gets to that match.
Yeah.
Or if you're setting up Rock versus Roman, why would you have Cody Rhodes win the Rumble and then immediately turn around and point to Roman Reigns like he knew it was going to happen?
True.
You would just have Cody win the Rumble. Maybe. And then do nothing. But I think that if Punk was supposed to win, Gunther would have won the Rumble. I think the audible would have been, Gunther, you're going over.
Yeah.
And Gunther's challenging Seth, and there's your Mania match. And everybody would be like, I'm sorry, why did CM Punk or Cody Rhodes not win the Rumble? Cody Rhodes is going to win the chamber, CM Punk tore his tricep. Okay, fair enough. Good reason. Like, yeah, okay, good on you for calling that audible halfway through the match.
Right.
But, or not halfway through the match, but like, that to me would have made more sense. Now, if the plan was never Roman versus Rock,
which I have some thoughts there, we'll get to.
If that was never the plan, and it was always Cody versus Roman, you just were going to tell the story a little differently, and you were going to have Cody win the right to do it at Chamber. And you're like, you know what? Might as well just have Cody win now, I guess, if Punk can't do it. Sure, I guess. But
the aftermath of the Rumble is what you're kind of going by. It's like, that seemed pretty... Cody knew he was going to win. Cody knew where Roman would be. So Cody was playing winner no matter what.
I really think so.
Then more power to Punk for battling out to be the second person, to be the last person eliminated with a torn triceps.
Yeah, and plus,
because if that was the here's what we're doing, either the 6, either the 4, which I'm pretty sure I had 3 of the 4 right. So I had at least something. I had at least something right in the show.
Yeah, my final 4, I got one of them correct, but I got the important one correct. It was the guy who won. So no, my final 4 was Jimmy, Solo, Sammy, and Cody. That was my final 4.
But to have that 6 and that 4 and have torn your tricep during that 6, and the match is, the match is scripted to be Punk, you're finishing this, or you're getting thrown over last by Rhodes. Rhodes going to win. That's the plan no matter what. Just even more props again to Punk for just muscling through that. The final 6 at the end of the match was a good, 6, 8, maybe 10 minutes?
Yeah, just the final match between him and Punk was like 8 minutes.
Yeah.
It was...
Was it that long? I didn't realize it was that long.
I loved it. And it felt like it was 40 for me.
Oh, I loved it.
I loved it too, but I was sitting there, like, again, battling a horrible migraine.
Yeah.
Just going, this will all be worth it if Cody wins. It will all be worth every second of pain that I'm dealing with right now. If Cody throws that chick magnet Punk over the top rope, I will be the happiest man on planet Earth. And I was. And legit, I remember asking my wife afterwards, I said, hey, honey, did you have a good time? Because we were both just so tired, dude. Like, driving all the way down there and then, hanging out with our friends all day and then immediately going to the Rumble and then immediately having to drive 9 hours back the next morning and get like 3 hours of sleep and just, we were dead. And I was just like, hey, honey, was this worth it? And she said, I wasn't really sure if it was worth it until I saw you when Cody won. Then it was worth it. So, like...
Cool.
Like, it was true, like, just pure, like, Thank God. Because listen...
For your sanity's sake, for our sanity's sake, I'm so glad Cody won.
Listen to me. If Cody wins the Rumble back-to-back years, which he has now, and he does not finish his mother-flipping story at WrestleMania, I will die. Not because of sadness. Not because of, I just like Cody that much. I just don't think I can take another year of it. I just don't think I can take another year of it. And I don't think anybody can take another freaking year of it. And that's why when Seth Rollins came out last night and said, I think you should face me instead, I said, Seth, you are turning yourself into the biggest heel in the industry. Just go run on a treadmill or something. Stop it. Go away. Stop being weird. Because, listen, there are some people who think that they should do that. Because you could just have The Rock face Roman. And then you have Cody versus Seth as the other match. There you go. Bing, bang, boom. There's your quick fix. And I went...
It's your everybody's happy kind of...
Nobody's happy if that happens.
within WWE. Here's my final thought.
I'm not happy if that happens.
I know. My final thought on all this, because I don't want to go into chamber stuff. We'll save it for another time. In a couple more weeks.
Yes, for sure.
When I saw Rhodes win, which I was shocked, because I thought when it was the two of them, I was like, Punk's winning this thing.
Good thing he didn't.
Yeah. Well, that would have been wild.
Can you imagine? Wins the Royal Rumble, comes out on Raw and says, actually, never mind.
Chamber match
suck.
The Chamber's 5 different elimination chamber matches.
Yep.
Seriously. So...
A 30-man chamber match. 5 people per pod. Let's figure it out. 10 people start the match. Figure it out. 30, 20. Whoever pins or submits 29 other men will...
my final thought is when Rhodes won that, I was thought back to what Brock said on Monday Night Raw, I don't know, a month ago now? Maybe, I don't know, give or take a week.
Yeah.
He's like, what if I was ahead of the table? What if we read into that way too much? And here's why I say that. He's not the board of directors with TKO, which runs WWE. He's not the chairman, who knows if
he should, by the way, he should totally be the new chairman.
No.
Totally be the new chairman. That would be amazing.
No.
Why not?
Just not yet.
Okay, fine.
Not right now.
Stephanie McMahon.
Not right now, not in this situation with Roman where he is and his daughter's the GM of NXT. No, not right now.
Well, she's the GM, no offense, Rock, but she's the GM of NXT because she can't wrestle.
Anyway. My point being, what if he was just like, I'm going to make this sound like I'm taking a jab at Roman when I'm really just being pre-announcing, hey, I'm going to be around more, but more in an administrative role.
Perhaps.
Now, that doesn't say we can't get Rock Roman at some point. But it doesn't look like we're going to get that at WrestleMania now.
No. I think you're getting into 41.
Which, I don't want a year-long build to that.
I don't think you need a year-long build to that.
But I'm afraid that we're right back into the John Cena Rock situation we were, 12 years ago, 10 years ago, sure. Whatever it was. So I'm not a historian here. This is a historian, so I just throw out random numbers when I say, you guys know what I'm referring to, though, at least with the matchup. Maybe I think we eventually get it. I don't think it's going to be that long, but, I don't think they're going to do, at least I hope they don't do. I think we can both agree on this. When Rock got reintroduced in the picture, we didn't want Cody Roman one night, Rock Roman the next night. Now, they could technically do that because...
now there's no other main event to have
but hopefully if they're like, hey, we're not going to put the World Heavyweight Championship and the main event of the other opposite night of Cody, hopefully they put a women's title there. Well,
Yeah,
whether it's Rhea's title or Io's title, whichever title.
I think Bayley versus Io Sky would be a great.
That'd be wonderful, because then Bayley could,
Great.
that'd be just another notch in the belt for Bayley.
Yep.
I think that night one main event is wide open right now, which I think is a really good thing. But that was my thought when I saw Cody toss Punk over. I'm like, did we read too much into that? Maybe we didn't. Maybe we're getting that match at some point. We definitely don't need the title for that match. And, I truly do hope that Cody finishes the story versus Roman at WrestleMania, since that is now the match. Most likely. I think we're about 90% there. He hasn't officially declared. He pointed at him. He pointed at the sign. Officially declared, so I'm going to allow for that little bit of, chance it doesn't happen, that doesn't go that way. Because then you could still do Rock Roman at WrestleMania. I hope they don't go that way of what they tried to tease last night on Raw. But it definitely was my thought of, I think people who want the Rock Roman match at WrestleMania need to take a back seat right now, because it's either going to happen at a SummerSlam or, like you said, maybe even WrestleMania 41. But that was my thought when Cody won, because I was shocked. I did not think Cody was going to win that Rumble.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think he was either. Yeah, I've said it a billion times that he should win it and all that stuff, but I didn't think he was going to. I think you did a good enough job of convincing me otherwise.
You're welcome.
As did the rest of the world. But I never lost faith or hope, and that's all it took was faith and hope, and a little bit of love. But no, so for me, my vision, and I'm just a no-name, right? But my vision, clearly, Cody finishes his story at Mania. Cody does a rematch.
That is a match, they have to do it.
Cody does the rematch with Roman at Backlash, beats him again. This time, have Solo turn on Roman. Roman leaves, depressed, sad, upset.
Yep.
Goes away. Comes back. Couple months later, gets demolished by Solo. Goes away. Comes back a few months later. Spears, who I would assume to be the World Heavyweight Champion at this point, in Damian Priest. Beats, or is fighting Damian Priest for the championship, and The Rock costs Roman. You could do that at SummerSlam, you could do that at Bash at Berlin, you could do that anywhere else. Somewhere later in the year. Yep. That's the start. Yep. Rock just comes back, costs Roman, there's your start. Reigns goes ballistic. Gunther wins the Rumble that year. Next year, he should. I think that clearly he should win the Rumble next year. Be the world champion. Just do it.
Yep.
Have Gunther win the world title at Mania from whoever. Have Cody Rhodes face whoever the hell you want. If he's still champion, I'm not sure he will be at that point. I actually kind of highly doubt he will be. I don't think he needs to be champion for a year. But the most important match on that card is Roman Reigns versus The Rock, and if The Rock loses, he retires. It's Tribal Chief versus career.
Yeah.
So if The Rock wins, he becomes head of the table, Tribal Chief, Tribal Combat, all that stuff.
Right.
Roman wins. Rock retires. There's your heat back. There's your story. Roman can go off and do whatever he wants now. He can take a bunch of time off. He can go back to trying to win back his championships. But I think once Roman loses this title, once you tell the Solo story, once you tell the Rock story, I think he can go after a championship one more time, and then after that he needs to just be a part-timer that doesn't go after a whole lot of championships or just becomes a gatekeeper that people beat. I don't think that I think you've built him up so much that you cannot have him continue to be around all the time and have him just lose. It makes no sense now.
Right.
So that's the difficult thing about dominant champions, is that there's no effective way to then have them lose. You can have them lose once, sure. Right. But you can't have them lose 50% of their matches. You can't go 50-50 with Chad Gable on Raw after being WWE champion. No offense to Chad Gable. He's wonderful. I already said that. But it's just going to not be a good look. So it's going to make no sense. So I think that you've got really two major stories after Cody to tell with Roman. Solo and The Rock.
Yes.
Those are your two.
Yes.
Down the line, Seth again.
Yes.
Not right now.
No.
Not, during Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. Not during this version of Seth Rollins. 2 years from now, a year and a half from now, a year from now, whatever the timing works out to be, Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be for a championship if you don't want it to be. It
that
can
has to be a feud before either retires or goes
for sure. And that might even be a WrestleMania match.
I mean, that could be 40. If we're doing
42.
42 for them.
Like, you could do that. That's great. And then, guess
Good
what?
old-
Roman Reigns. I know it's hard to think about, guys. Roman Reigns will be 40 years old by then. He doesn't need to do much else. I'm pretty sure the guy's proven his point. Right? Like, that he's the, arguably the greatest wrestler that has ever walked the earth. So, there you go. But that's just me. But
And to that, then we'll sign off for that night, I think.
Yes.
Maybe. Because I don't know where this is. I don't know how you're going to react to this.
Okay. Now I'm scared now. Are we going to have another Nia Jax match, Daniel? I can't take anymore.
No.
Okay.
No.
Roman Reigns versus Nia Jax, main event WrestleMania 40.
That'll be 43.
43! If she's still around by then, oh man, that's tough.
I think in some... Okay, so we've obviously the last year and a half have had interference from Jay, then it was Jimmy, now it's Solo for Roman to keep the title. Mania, Rhodes, Roman. Solo's going to inevitably be involved. Before he even gets 5 feet from the ring, The Rock shows up, neutralizes Solo. Rock doesn't get anywhere close to the ring, doesn't affect anything. Both Roman and Cody are distracted. Cody still wins, Cody still finishes the story, but then you can tell that Rock and Roman story sooner, and you can tell that first before you get to Roman and Solo. Because Roman can first go after The Rock, what the heck, man? We're family, what are you doing? Then he takes care of him, then he goes to Solo and says, come on, man. And then you can write him off to the side. I think you can do it, but I think that way you can speed up those timelines a little bit, still get those. The other thought too is what I'm having right now is you do Rock and Roman, but Netflix gets WWE Raw in 2025. Maybe they're saving that for the kickoff match for Netflix.
And maybe you do.
I think it's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, and maybe you do Cody beats Roman, then beats Roman again at Backlash, and then Solo is the next challenger.
Yep.
Trying to take the title back to the Bloodline, but just not have it be Roman. Excuse me. So I think that makes sense as well. I'm not sure how you'd want to do. Maybe that's like something that Roman needs to overcome at the Mania match against Dwayne. Who knows? I don't know, but we'll see how it happens. But
the fact that we can discuss all these storylines and so many different possibilities of doing it is just wonderful.
It is wonderful.
I'm still shocked that Rhodes actually pulled it off. I'm still,
again, over the moon about it. I was fully like, okay, well, it's going to be Rock Roman at Mania. We're not going to get Rhodes. And then when he threw him over the top rope, like, it was like every doubt, every like sadness that I had about it was gone. And it was just replaced with pure adrenaline in my soul. Get it? Because song.
Because nobody else has thrown that line out like that at all the last couple days.
Never. But
I love it.
But no, Dan, thanks for doing this. Obviously, longer conversation than what we would normally have, but there was a lot to get into. So I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, folks, we are going to be doing Elimination Chamber predictions once the card's a little bit more fleshed out.
Yeah.
As Dan mentioned a little bit earlier. If you're somehow still here...
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. You guys are the best. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it was a little all over the place, but we did our best to kind of stay on track. Didn't work.
That's how we usually are,
yeah,
though.
for sure. But anyways, again, those are my thoughts on the Rumble. Those are his thoughts on the Rumble. I still have to go back and watch the full pay-per-view on TV. But obviously I watched it live, so I got a pretty cool experience with that. Hopefully I'll be able to go to another Rumble someday. Because again, I'm a little disappointed with the crowd and everything like that. But anyways, thank you all so very much for watching. We'll both see you next time.